Hello, everybody. I have 4 or 5 people watching me straight away after that. How are you guys? I'm just flicking onto my comment box so I don't have to keep looking at my phone. Brilliant. Oh, we have 4 people. That's amazing. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining the live stream. I thought it'd be good timing to have a live stream straight after that. Were you expecting that car? Because some people were, some people weren't. That guy from Ceta Alpha. Hello, sir. How are you? I hope that Project Ruby will not be blowing her head gasket. She's blowing oil out, but not blowing the head gasket. But then that's a CVH for you. David, hello, sir. How are you? I hope you're okay. High in advance, we'll try and join later if it's still going. I'll try and keep it going for you because I know you're working. Thanks for watching the actual premiere. I knew you would, despite the fact that there was a few people who knew what it was. You guessed correctly. You were the only one who didn't know out of I think 5 people that knew. Very close to me. 5 people who are quite close friends. But you didn't know. I didn't tell you that, and you guessed correctly in an email. I was quite surprised by that. I didn't allude that you got it correct, but you got it correct. My enthusiasm for Mark Freeze at the festival, the unexceptional, was quite obvious, considering I'd already agreed a deal for Ruby. As you can see, we have a wheel trim. Things have been going on since that video. Things have happened at a pace. As the way of YouTube, I think you're kind of aware that YouTubers do things in advance. And I'll try not to do things too far in advance because continuity gets messed up. It's not good for you guys. And sometimes you can spot problems or errors or something that it's not linked together. I've probably done a bit of work since that video. Not much, but a bit of work, more than I thought. I've got straight stuck in there making ridiculous amounts of videos. And the videos are on average 40 to 50 minutes. So more like your Wheeler Dealers sort of length of episode, not your 20-30 minutes. But then, have I ever been known for short episodes when working on project cars? Nah, not really. So things are working and things are going down the line. Alex, test, test, test. How are you? Said that there are plenty of Mark IIIs where you are. I see most of them in Portugal because of the climate. I am now a member of the Mark III Facebook groups. There's 3 of them for some reason. I'm in the group for parts because I need a window reg. Apparently you can get a brand new one. You can get brand new electric front window regs from an aftermarket company. £88. I'd rather get a working second-hand one, genuine items, because they tend to be better quality. The only reason I suspect this has snapped is because it's got stuck, and that's what happens to the cables. Mark 1 Focuses go the same way. Taras, hi again. Hello, sir. So yeah, and the passenger's door card, which has got to come off to have a look at the window. I have not looked at that, so I can assume it's a broken cable. I don't know for sure. I'll be looking at a new door card potentially. Well, I say new, it'd have to be second hand. But the only thing is with second hand is that it may not have cigarette burns on it, but the scratches on the door handle, they are bad plastics. Ford plastics are awful. Trim is a problem for 80s Fords and early 90s stuff. They just weren't made to last. Saying that, the seats were very comfortable, but again, I've got to strip the covers off the foam and re-glue them down because they just separate. It's like the door cards on Rover 45s or many Rovers of that age. They just literally, the material backing is only glued to the back with foam, and the foam just disintegrates, and then you just get a baggy effect. So it's not nice. Taras, hi again. Hello, how are you? Stream is finally working. Hello, Andrew. Hello. Sorry, I was a bit late. I just wanted to make a cup of tea, which is suddenly stuck to my, and I've just made a mess. It's stuck to my mat, and just clear that up because it's anything with tea coasters made of material, not plastic, is that they kind of get stuck down, and you lift this with it. It's just, oh, let me know, what a mess. Andrew spilling tea. That happens a lot, that does. Spilt tea on the engine the other day. Look, it didn't go in. I had the spark plugs inside. I hadn't taken them out. Yeah, I was just doing a video. Doing a little video that I thought I would sneak in there alongside making some tea. I need to use my time very wisely these days, and having 3 cars. I'm sorry, I'm messing with my net because I've got this irritating teenage spot. New news. It's really irritating. I've just felt it, and it's absolutely vile, and I just want to pick the bloody thing out. Anyway, stream. So at first I was hoping for Cougar that you had, because you mentioned that you might consider it. I was looking. The ones that came up before I had the Mark 1 resprayed. I didn't intend to get a car this holiday, although I had a feeling that because I'm off work for a bit, I would have a bit more time to mess around with a third car. Financially, I'm tight on that side of things, but I will still look after the car very well because I do all my own work. I'm only paying for parts. But this car is not a car to keep. It's a car to enjoy. So get my hands dirty. I'm already doing that. My hands are quite clean, but they have been dirty the last few days, very dirty. It's not as clean a car as what you may have put in the comments. It's actually, that video shows the car in a very good light. I'm probably going OTT because it is a 34-year-old car, and most probably, even though it's been probably garage most of its time, the accumulation of dirt is a bit of a problem with old cars, especially in certain areas. Need I say more about that? So a lot of degreasing. In fact, I'll show you something. It's under my desk. I've bought this, is it 5 litres? Yeah, 5 litres gunk engine degreaser. Do you see how much is left of it? That was new about 4 days ago. You can imagine what I've been doing. That guy from Sita, I'm in the Missouri area, USA. It's 3 p.m. in the afternoon here. I emigrated in 2016. Very brave of you. How is it over there? That's brave. That's brave. There's only one place that I'd emigrate to, trying to relate myself in a sense. And that's Canada. I would go there in the shops. A bit cold in the winter. But it's one place that I'd like to go again. I went to Toronto 7 years ago. Holiday of my life. Did a bit of travelling. So at the moment it's 102 degrees Fahrenheit. I can't do that. I need Celsius. Sorry, I'm a Celsius person. I can't convert that. What is that? Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of that in my head. You're doing well to be awake for 3 p.m. in the afternoon. 42 degrees. Ouch, that's hot. That's hot. That's the thing. Toronto didn't get that hot. 34 degrees when I was on holiday in Toronto in the summer. So it's okay. It can get hotter than that, but that's quite hot. But Missouri, that would be quite typical, I'd assume, at this time of the year. Tadas, not on topic, but a few days ago, my EGR intake manifold and new gaskets for exhaust turbo and intake, and I did fix my temporary vacuum pipe. No more kid juice straw. Oh, brilliant. Well done. I'm sorry. Your video is going to go out very soon that I did of your car in the Mark 1 community. I'm so sorry it hasn't come out. There have been so many things that have happened this summer. Shows, going to see someone's car collection. If you haven't watched the Martin's collection, a budget classic car collection, it came out yesterday. Please watch it if you're interested in British cars, because honestly, what a nice collection of cars. We've got some modern classics, and then we get slightly older. 5 cars, and I think they're quite relevant cars. And the strange thing is, all of them were bought for under £1,000. That's motoring at its cheapest. Yeah, you have to maintain them, naturally. And I'm pretty sure that Martin has spent many thousands trying to keep them on the road, but over several different years, you know. cracking video, so please watch that. But those sort of videos have kicked everything down the pan. And then I've had this to contend with, getting it here. I've had this car trailered, delivered to me from Kent. And that is where the previous owner lives. You're going to see him very shortly because his car collection, well, he's a serial car collector. Now, I can only own 3 cars. I can't financially sustain it because I look after my cars very well. And I want to keep them for a bit longer. He has a number of cars. And since selling me this Fiesta, he's bought another few. And I won't name him, but as I say, you'll see him soon. He actually sold a Vauxhall Corsa B, which was on Furious Driving's channel. Matt Furious Driving. It's the earliest Vauxhall Corsa left. He owned that, and he sold it to the current fella who owns it. It was at the Festival of the Exceptional. So he has owned a few cars. I'll come on to that in a second, actually. Don't want to get too far away. But that's why everything's being kicked down the pan. And that temporary vacuum pipe is something that I talk about in that video. But I'm pretty certain that will have done it a world of good. We are having a few problems with a TDDI I know from a friend who may be watching this, may not be watching this. Adam, if you're watching this, Tadas, you've got just as much experience with TDDIs. Apparently, Adam's TDDI, you might have seen it on the drive to the Festival of the Exceptional because he drove me very kindly. That video, you might have noticed it was playing up a bit. It wasn't idling well at traffic lights. It was hitting 3,000 RPM and then bogging down. Apparently, on plugging a very good scanner into the car, he's found out that the pump timing is slightly off. So he's got to find out a way of timing the pump properly, because there's a certain tool that you need. You might know more than I do. Secondly, I need to ask you, do you know much about the TDCIs? Because my experience in Mark 1s is petrols. Do you know where the coolant temperature sensor is located? If you can tell me that answer, I'm sure it'd be the same for both engines because it's the same engine, just slight differences. If you can let me know, that would be great, because there's an issue that's just come up. It's a video that's going to go out tomorrow for somebody who's actually just bought a TDCI with a faulty temperature gauge. Well, it's faulty temperature reading. The gauge is fine. The engine gets the temperature and it blows hot through the heaters. Nothing wrong with the thermostat. But the temperature sensor might be at fault. We need to know where it is. At the moment, it's... Oh, sorry. Tell us, no problem. It's understandable. It's coming out soon. Trust me. And in fact, I might accelerate it. There are a number of videos I've done on Project Ruby already, but I will put yours out actually a bit sooner. So I'm going to do a bit of swapping round. That'll be done. Alex, I'm in Portugal indeed, but most Mark III Fiestas here are 1.1. So you've got the high compression swill Valencia Kent engine. How nice. There's nothing to go wrong. Timing belt doesn't exist. It's a chain. Overhead valve, get a bit tappety, but I think the 1980s HCS is actually a much more refined engine than the late ones, the Enduro E, what it's called. The last version of that engine, they're not good. They tap quite nice. They tap really badly. They really do sound bad. In fact, working on the driveway, I heard a KA 2002, remarkably it's still on the road at 21, amazing. It got my attention for about 10 seconds as it passed. I heard it coming a mile off. It was that bad. A lot of them are red, faded to pink. Car manufacturers didn't know how to do reds and protect them, nor the lacquers. Rovers are bad for that. 1990s Rovers, Rover R8s, they all fade. Lacquer's dreadful on them. You just have to respray them. Engelman, how are you, sir? Nice to see you again. There's 64 Fahrenheit in my wine cellar. Let's go down there. Can you do centigrade? I'm trying to work that one out. That's much cooler. Uh, what wine do you have, sir? I don't drink as much these days. My money goes on the cars, but I'm partial to cider and wine. Uh, Alex, 3 days ago, my W203 was showing 51.5 Celsius on the dash. Alex, I can assume, you see, I've actually not been to Portugal. That's shocking for a start. I will do at some point. Make it a car holiday because there's some wonderful cars out there where you are. And yeah, there's a nice car culture in Portugal. I've heard of stories in the summer where it's so hot, like mid 40s, late 40s, even you can't go out your house. You walk out your front door and the sun hits your head and you can't do it. It's like a red wall. You have to go back in. It's that bad. It's almost fatal. That's something that I can't comprehend. I hate the heat, to be honest. I can't stand it in some respects. If I go abroad, I expect and prepare for heat. I come prepared. But otherwise on holidays, I can't stand heat. When we get heat over here, it's not normal. It's completely unnatural. Um, so yeah, my body doesn't react well to heat. Unfortunately, I start going a bit fuzzy-headed, pale skin, and I can't tan. My skin drops off, literally. Uh, Funny that you mentioned KAs. I'm looking at getting a street cat in the future. They're very cool and very collectible. I saw one at a car show recently for the. I've never seen a full KA street cat. Well, KA cat. Which one is it? I say KA all the time. Um, they're starting to get recognised because of how rare they are. And do you know what? Ks, Mark ones, whether it's street cat or whatever it is, whether it's a Kent engine or the 1.2 Rocam, Duratec 8 valve as it's called. It's a Rocam engine, cheap version of the Sigma. Um, they're going to be valuable if they're not rotten. If they're scabby, you expect them to be. They're worse than Mark III Fiestas, which is really bad. So I think Mark III. This is another reason why I wanted an early one, and what I thought this is an opportunity I cannot waste with this car. The early Mark IIIs, there's about 7 Mark IIIs that are earlier surviving examples than my one. I think mine's number 8-ish that I can see. There's only a month between when this was registered and the first ones were launched in April the 15th. This is a May 16th registration. So there's a month, and there's 7 other cars that are before me. I've done a bit of digging because I didn't want to say something that was wrong. It's the earliest CTX that I've seen so far. I think it's the earliest one. In terms of gears, it's the earliest surviving gear. But there are earlier ones. I think there's a channel called Morsels and Motors that has a mint condition, popular without the door mirror. It's Morsels and Motors. It is a full popular 1.1. It came with 2 door mirrors, but he removed it and put the blank on like it should be. How interesting. One of his cars was at the festival and the exceptional. But the early ones from what I've seen tend to be like that, quite clean and tidy. So there is an element of, with every single car, whether it's Mark 1 Focuses, S-Reg Focuses, they're very well built. Early Mark 3s, very well built. Early Mark 4 Fiestas tend to be actually less rusty. Every car at launch tends to be that early batch, they tend to be well built. Rover 75s, 45s, they are all extremely well appointed and built. They have to be. Because you think that if there is a badly appointed car and Wing gets out that there's been some problems with that car, Wing gets out, new car, sales, stutter. In the days of social media now, it's impossible to get away from that. Manufacturers have no choice. They have to produce the same quality from start to finish, which tends to be a bit poor these days. But back in the day, no social media. You could probably get away with it, but you didn't. So I kind of thought that an early Mark III in that condition, it's very well built, better rust protected, and it is better rust protected. Rover used water-based paint and lacquer in the 90s to save money. That's the problem. I mean, I'm not being funny. Most body shops, it's all water-based anyway these days, I think from the last 20 years. But manufacturers have actually refined the process so that water-based paint can last a bit longer than it used to. In the 90s, Rover did a bit of messing around, and good point. That was why. I did know that. I just don't know why I didn't say that. But yeah, they didn't get the lacquer right either. It's why R8 rust. Yeah, absolutely. You imagine the perforation on that paint. If you've got no protection on the metal, if the paint's coming off, you're going to get rust badly. R8s are not good for that. I have to admit now, I've previously said I'd like an R8. It's not on my list anymore because I love my 45 so much. I think an R8 would be interesting, but I think I'd get bored of it because I've got a very similar car. I'm not saying that an R8 and a 45 are incredibly similar, but they are in some ways. Underneath, it's the same. The floor pan is a bit different because it's based on a slightly different car. One's a Concerto, one's a Domine. But the rear suspension is the same, identical. The front suspension is different. You got Mattheson strut on an R8, and Honda insisted on double wishbone. I rate double wishbone a lot, and it handles very well. But these days, Matheson, what do you want to pronounce it as? They are actually pretty good at getting the same sort of level of ride quality, but without the complexity of double wishbone. It is a bit more fiddly, double wishbone ish. But I think I'd be disappointed by an R8. And considering they're very cheap, but there is a reason for that. Yes, you know, brand snobbery. Maybe I should get one. I don't know. It's one of them things. Maybe I should get an automatic. I'd have to get one. Oh, I can't get a Rover R8 with an automatic gearbox unless it's a CVT. I've already got that. Don't need another one. I've got two cars with the same damn gearbox now. I'd probably have to go for the Honda. I'd have to go for the Honda 1.6 because it wasn't an option. I think the only automatic option was the Honda 1.6 D series. And I think they're quite thirsty. To be fair, I'd want a K series. I'm hooked on the K series as an engine now. I was very much veering to going towards a Rover Metro. Rover Metro versus Fiesta Mark III. Rover Metros are probably better cars all round. But this car, people get nostalgic about because most people have learnt to drive in one of them from back in the day. Most people know someone who's had one. Now, I'm in a rare position here because my family have had Metros. My nostalgia is Metros. I stick my nose into a Metro and I'm 5 years old with the smell of that foam. It's the smell of an early 90s Rover R8 Metro. The foam is just, it's beautiful to my nose. It takes me back. Fiestas, no one in my family's had a Fiesta. No one's had a Mark III Fiesta. No one. It's my first Fiesta, and I find it quite romantic in some respects that the Fiesta is no longer with us as a car, and the everyday car is being sucked away from the everyday people now, us, working class. Car manufacturers don't want to know the everyday person. And that's why the Fiesta sadly has died a death, and the Focus is going to go the same way, sadly. Some people argue it's already gone and died a death because the last generation isn't exactly the best. This is the Fiesta that people remember. Yes, Mark 1s are great, they're classics. Mark 2s, yeah, they're classics. Mark 3s haven't quite got to that classic status yet for some reason. They're modern classics. But I think they are getting there now. But I think most people remember Mark 3s, Mark 4s and Mark 5s because it's the same body shell essentially. Tweaked. Mark 4 and Mark 5 were a bit more bubbly. But this is the Fiesta I remember. And you would have seen one of these, a Mark 4 or Mark 5, on every corner street, probably up to the late noughties. About 50, even 5-10 years ago, you'd have seen a Mark 4, Mark 5. Mark III's not so much. They've all sort of gone a little bit in the last 6-7 years. So I find it quite. It felt right, which is why I went for it instead of a Metro, because I like Fords, and I had to go down a route. It was either Rover or Ford. I had to go down one route. Cougar, wrong time. I'm looking at Maestros. Maestro, yeah, there will be a Maestro on the channel going forwards, 100%. There won't be any spoilers and surprises like that. It will be fairly predictable, my next car. But this is to enjoy. Sorry, I've rabbited on again. Tadas, with the TDDI timing, it's so stupid. Pump is driven by the chain from the crank, yeah. And from the pump, it's to the cam belt. Yeah, okay, got you. The crank sprocket is not keyed, which means it's holding pressure on the main pulley. Yeah. So like the petrol models, they're basically it's torqued in. There's no keyway. I hate that. Whenever you do a timing belt change, it's I've got a good gun. I just whack it and hope. I really do. One, hope that I don't actually over torque the bolt and snap the head off the bolt by over tightening it, but not under tightening it. Unfortunately, there was a situation recently where someone emailed me saying they did the timing belt on their Focus with a buzz gun, an air gun at home on a compressor, which should be good enough. They did it all right. It ran fine. They put it in a garage because of some brake issue. And they came back to it 3 months later, started it up, and nothing. It literally started for a split second and it stopped working. Couldn't work out what it was. What had happened is the bolt had somehow come loose. The crankshaft sprocket was then not putting pressure on the sprocket that the belt runs on, the freewheeling sprocket. And, well, you can imagine timing gone, valves, pistons, end of the engine. And he swears he buzzed it up enough. So that is a real alarming thing with Mark 1s. You have to make sure it's buzzed up. There is a torque setting, but you can't. The only way you're going to torque it up is by taking the starter motor out, locking it up properly, and then getting a torque wrench. And believe you me, that's not possible. I've tried to get. You can't do it on the floor. You need it on ramps because you can't get enough leeway. You have to jack it up high, but you still can't do it because you need leverage with the torque wrench to get it up to, I think it's 100, I think it's 150. I could be wrong about that. You can't do it. So the only way of doing it is a buzz gun, like my friend's done. He's going to get another engine for it, and he's not giving up on it. And I've helped him with a new engine, so fingers crossed. And I know you're watching, buddy. I'm so sorry about that. But it's stupid. Why did they not just have a key? Yeah, I'm not sure if a CVH might have a keyway because I've got to do the timing belt on the CVH. It's all going to be done. I've got to think about that. So technically, you need to undo the main pulley of the crank, turn the crank, or there may be chain stretch and you need to replace the chain. God, okay, that's not good. What I need to do, I'm going to get my manual out and have a look, the Mark 1 manual. I'll have a read of it tonight about all of that because it's all in the book. I've never read it because I don't think I'd own a diesel Focus Mark 1 because it kind of goes against everything a Mark 1 is good for: handling, balance, weight, distribution, that sort of thing. But they are good engines. I just don't think they're very suited to Mark 1s, which is why I've not been motivated to learn. But you've taught me a lot of things about them. But I've got a lot to learn about that. So maybe my hand might be forced in the future. You'll see. Maybe. Stevie, hello, sir. You asked a question on the comments, so I haven't replied to it. No, I don't live in Aston. I live in Birmingham. I can't give you any more information than that because I'm kind of conscious of just letting people know where I am. I like to remain private in a private life as best as possible. And I know there are people that may try and find my address by looking up road names. I have Yeah, I have some specific sort of attractions near me that would make it obvious where I live. So I never film on my doorstep when I'm driving. Just I don't want people around. I now have a very nice classic car on the driveway, and I have to think about just not attracting the wrong sort of people. And as much as you guys are nice guys, there might be people that watch this who are not, who have very bad intentions. And we know that people like this exist. It's a very nickable car, Fiesta Mark III. Someone tried to nick the car before I bought it. Not when I had it, before I bought it, that is, with a screwdriver. And there is damage to the lock surround. Not stupid damage. The door was unlocked, by the way. The door was completely unlocked. The previous owner did not lock the door. So he's been butchered stupidly. But it doesn't look, it just looks a bit torn. But the lock's fine. So I have to be very careful about advertising. I'm very glad that the Mark 1 Focus is away in a place that no one will know, because quite frankly I'm too concerned for the car security. And Beatrix is, it has some security device on it. No one's going to take that. Put it that way. That's one video I can't talk about, guys, if you haven't noticed. Security. Can't talk about security, because then I would give away what I do to my cars. And every single one of them cannot be started. Might have given it away there, but it makes it harder, doesn't it? We've all got our own ways of immobilising our precious possessions. I don't like it when I hear stories of classics being stolen off someone's driveway. They clearly didn't immobilise it. You've got to immobilise it. You just have to. You can't not immobilise them. So I don't live in Aston, but I live in Bermondsey. I can't really give you any more details on that. But my family, you asked about football. Baggies, I'm afraid, we're mostly Baggies, because a lot of my family are from Black Country. If you haven't noticed a bit of my accent creeping in a little bit, I am Brummie, not Black Country, different thing, but I've got family over there. You out, am you? That's all I can say. But I don't pretend to understand half of it. I only know some of it. It's a different language. Aston Villa are going to do well this year. Got a good manager, haven't they? I can talk about football all day long, and I know a few of that support certain teams. And I know that certain guy supports Man United. Well done. I am a United supporter. I am affiliated more towards the Baggies because my family are, but I've never supported the Baggies directly, if you understand my meaning. I've only supported United, as bad a club as they are at the moment. That's all I know. TDDI, by the way, called the Endura DI or Kent. That's it. DI. That's the one. Sorry, I got it wrong there. I called it E. Excuse me. Alex Street Cat uses the 1.6 Sigma, and they can be found in Germany in low thousands. Oh yeah, the Street Cat, it uses the Sigma 1.6. I don't think it ever used that because there wasn't enough space for that. There wasn't enough space for the Sigma in a cat. Not enough space, so it was a Rocam engine, which is, the Rocam engine is basically Ford of Brazil took a Sigma engine and basically made a cheap version of it. So they threw away the timing belt, threw away a camshaft and a load of valves, 8 valves, chain driven, bit more coarser, but a bit more rough and ready. They're okay. I've not heard of many problems with them engines, just like the Sigma. And then Ford of Europe thought, that's great. We need a replacement for the Kent engine, but the Sigma won't fit because it's double Hervé cam. This is perfect. They shoved it straight in, and they called it the 1.2 Duratec 8 valve. Where is it? TV Sports, hey bud, live from Mallorca. Hey, hope you're enjoying Mallorca, buddy. You spotted some really nice Mark 1s. I did see your message earlier. And yes, it's nice to see some Mark 1 Focuses completely rust-free in Mallorca. I hope you're having a good holiday. You deserve it. You've worked really hard on both home and work. So enjoy. I'm glad you've joined us. Don't stay. Spend time with your family. Spend enough time with cars and all that. Alex, TDDI is the Endura DI and the TDCI is the Duratorque DI, even though it's basically the older engine converted to common rail injection. That's what it is. It's actually slightly less reliable than the TDDI. I've got to be honest with you, my information has changed about TDDIs. I think there's more problems with TDDIs as they get older, because I didn't know that with the TDDIs, you've got, I think you told me this, Taras, I think Adam told me this as well, where you've got a little module on top of the pump which links to the ECU, and they can go wrong, and you have to buy the ECU. I think the ECU and module have to go together. So if the module packs in, you've got to get a module and ECU as a kit from another car. I believe that's right. There's a few failures that I've heard of on that side now. That's 2 people have come to me in the last month with similar issues that sound like module failure. So TDCIs, they do tend to go through their injectors, but TDDIs have got a different set of problems now, which is interesting. A 45 is just a tweaked R8 chassis with Montego and Maestro suspension. No, it isn't. It isn't, because the Montego and Maestro use McPherson strut and a twist beam rear axle, which they used on the R3 Bubble 200, mainly because they couldn't fit the Honda back end to the 200 because of the boot. Well, something to do with that. It is, I think Matt Furious Driving did a video ages ago where he reviewed a 45 V6. Nice car. Joseph Lloyd's car that was. He sold it now. And he said it's an R8 underneath. Technically that's not right, because the R8 is a Honda Concerto underneath, and the Rover 45, the HHR, is a Honda Domini underneath the platform. But the differences between a Concerto and a Domini are very few and far between. They're very similar. In fact, I argue I think it's possible. I don't think it's ever been done. Could you fit the rear suspension off an R8 on a 45, or vice versa, and it would fit fine? The track might be different. It's possible. Maybe the length of the arms is slightly different, but it's same suspension. But that's why I wouldn't really go for an R8, because it's too similar to what I've got. So Metro, probably a Rover one, because they got the hydrogas right. And Austin Metros recently, have you seen the price of Austin Metros? They seem to have hit that nostalgia factor now, that people are spending money on them like Minis. They're going up just as much as Minis now, and that puts it out my price bracket. Rover Metros are right in the cusp. So Metros, Maestros, before they go up. I'm going to forget Montegos, because Montegos, I think if a Montego is up for sale, it's usually someone within the club, and usually they will give somebody within the club, another person within the club, first dips. There's so few of them. It's such a niche car that nobody from outside the Montego Owners Club buys one. Maestros are not like that yet. They're not far behind. There's only about 250 Maestros left. Not in the UK. Abroad, there might be some. Oh, excuse me. I just hope I can fit. I can fit in a street cat. I'm 6'4". Oh, goodness me. Okay, I'm 6'3". I can understand why that might be a bit of a problem. You should be able to fit perfectly fine. That's only slightly above average. It's only slightly above average, so I wouldn't worry too much. It's legroom that's the problem. Getting that correct seating position without your legs bending. I always find that my legs, the Rover 45, my legs are like not at a 90-degree angle, which is good. Because driving the Focus, it feels like my legs are at like 100 degrees bend. It's very uncomfortable driving at that sort of, and that's with the seat fully back. Whereas Beatrix is a bit more lower down, more comfortable, more sporty. And I find my legs are much more rested. And there's lovely footrest for my left foot in the automatic. I think you get them in the manuals as well. My legs are usually like a sort of, I don't know, 180 degrees. It's probably more like, trying to describe it now. My legs are like that, sort of towards 180, which is great. It's almost straight ahead, which is a really comfortable driving position. Although saying that, I have briefly driven an MGF, briefly, and having my legs straight forward might be difficult in a long journey. Maybe I'd want to bend them or something. The equivalent Honda Civic is identical mechanically. Well, this is the confusing thing. The Honda Domini was never sold in Europe. It was only sold in the Far East, in Japan. But Honda decided, we're not going to call it the Domini in Europe, we're going to call it the Civic. And I believe there was only a few tweaks of that. It's really confusing because Honda Civic Mark 6, which stopped production in 2000, it's 45 underneath. But you look at the differences between a Mark 6 Civic and a 45. Oh no, Rover did such a good job with that car. People really blast the 45 for that. And I don't understand. It looks like a Rover. You can tell that there was a bit of constraint with that notchy hatchback back end. They solved it with the saloon, but I think the saloon looks too bulbous. I think it looks stupid. I think the hatch is the better looking version. Each their own on that one. But if you look at Honda Civic, I don't like them. They're absolutely vile whenever I see one. And I just look at it and I think, I cannot believe that this car is my 45 underneath. I can't believe it. It just looks, nah. I don't feel any connection with that car. There's one that I pass to go to work and I just don't, I see it as a Honda. It is a Honda, but I just don't see it as anything other than a Honda. R8 chassis with the Maestro rear suspension is the 25, not the 45. That's correct. As I say, they try to fit the R8 Honda rear suspension to the R3, the 225, whatever. But they discovered that there wasn't enough space around the boot well, so they had to get the Maestro, tweak a Maestro twist beam suspension. They're okay. They do a good job, actually, to be fair. Maestros handle quite nicely, actually, for what they are. The chassis Domini was basically developed by Honda when Rover was already developed by Honda when Rover found out was going to be the R8 replacement. I'm afraid so. Unlike the R8, which was the purest and best of collaborations, the HHR 400 was a bit of a compromise because Honda had already gone ahead and just done what they bloody wanted. And when Rover went over there, they were so disappointed by the car, they almost pulled the plug and just said, you know what, this is rubbish. They came back, and I think there was some consensus. I keep forgetting the guy's name who styled the 600. He styled the 45 and 75. And they came back, and it was bad. The relationship was breaking down anyway because the company had been sold to British Aerospace, and from British Aerospace to BMW, there was a lot of things going on, a lot of bad things politically. It was already going to happen, but Honda went ahead and did what they wanted. But I think they actually conceded that they needed to compromise, and then the Rover went back over there, they flew over there, and they got some compromises out of the car to do with the styling. If you've seen a picture of a Honda Domini, they're disgusting cars to look at. The fact that the 45 looks so good is such a testament to Rover. And I think that car deserves more of a medal than the R8 in that respect because of how good it actually is. But it isn't as pure as what people say. But each their own about that one. I read that Honda used the Rover designed R8 chassis and the chassis, excuse me, and added some length to it. I'm not sure about that. What with the Civic? The Civic or Domini, possibly. I'm not sure. There was a lot of things that there was quite a few things that they found out, learned Honda. Rover learned a few things on Honda. They learned about just-in-time and management and efficiency, and they learned a lot. Didn't help them in the end, but sad. Alex, a Mark II Focus with a 2-litre TDCi HDI engine is a pretty decent drive, I think. I don't know much about them. The HDI engine, the Peugeot HDI. Ooh. Not bad engines. They tend to be fitted to Mondeos, aren't they? Unfortunately, key locks are pretty darn easy to bypass. They are so bad. Yeah, they are. Just a screwdriver. I cannot really stop anybody getting into the car. That's the truth. But I can stop someone nicking it. There'll be nothing. I'd tell you what, with all my cars, I'll tell you, there's nothing in them. I do not leave anything in the glove compartments. There's nothing in there. Just spare tools in the boot. Basic stuff. Really basic stuff. If it got stolen, I could replace it all for about 20 quid. I do not leave anything in my cars. So the drug dealers or the druggies, as I say, they can break into my car for something they can steal for a quick fix. I'm sorry. I don't mean to brand druggies, people who take drugs, but we get a lot of that around here. And they will look in your cars and steal something that they think is worth 2 quid, so they can give that 2 quid to the drug dealer. It's bad, and it's desperate. I'm sorry for those people. They need help, serious help. But the consequences of having your car stolen, I tell you what, or broken into. There was one situation before I put the Focus in the garage. For the first time, I believe that the car was actually broken into. Well, it wasn't broken into. I forgot to lock the car, and I found the door was not shut the one morning, and I just saw it at the corner of my eyes. I was just coming through the porch because it's on the left, and I thought, oh Christ, did I leave the door open? And I opened the door and the glove compartment was open. And I hate it. Some bastard has been in my, that's my private space, that is. That's my safe space with the car. And some bastard has been through and just rummaged through. I can't imagine what it's like if someone breaks into your house, knowing someone has gone in your private space, your safe space, and invaded that. That's the worst thing. Probably not having, having something stolen is bad, but them being in that space, in the car, I couldn't stand it. Luckily, I'd already agreed for the garage, and I'm thankful that's not the case. But it's sad. Well, they can have a packet of polos. I'll leave them some polos. A packet of polos might be quite appropriate for a Mark III Fiesta. Polos have gone out of fashion. I don't know. I used to have the flavoured ones. I have the ultimate security system. It fires 357 rounds. Brilliant. I actually made a joke to somebody. It might have been you. It might be somebody replied to that. I said when I went to a car show, there was a Chevrolet pickup. I can't remember which one. You'd know and I wouldn't. I'm not as cued into American cars. It was a Chevrolet pickup, and I said, there's, as I say, if you can't have in the UK, you can't have a pickup because somebody will just nick whatever's in the back. But in America, if someone tries to steal your yod, you just get your gun out and shoot them, or threaten to shoot them, and that's quite true. Because in the UK, no, there's no consequence. There's no police around. It's a free for all. There's no consequence now. So nobody buys pickups. Not really. You do see them around. Ford Rangers are the best ones. Ford Rangers are the most common round here. They're few and far between though. But yeah, it's one of them. I don't do football. I don't do football. I'm a rugby supporter and ex-school team player, but racing is my thing. Ah, nice. What sort of racing do you watch? I'm being a bit silly when I ask that question. What rugby team do you support? Because my dad's a former rugby player, not professional, but so semi-professional. Used to be before he got loads of knee injuries back in the day, 80s, late 80s now. What was I going to say? Alex, a fun fact, the base model Hyundai and Kia in the USA had no engine immobilizer, which is why they have skyrocketed. Now they're updating the ECU to only allow the engine to start when it's been unlocked by the fob, which is awfully similar to the Rover Lucas 5AS system. Oh, I did not know that. That's stupid. What? Why? That's very similar. That's actually identical to the Petron system. It's not the Lucas system that I'm aware about. It's the Petron system. You need to if you have not started the car within 30 seconds of me pressing the unlock button, it will cut back in, and I'll have to press the button again. Good feature that. I really like the Petron system. I've got used to it, and I swear by it. People blast them, but why blast them? It takes 15 minutes to get that center console out, take it out, send it off to Paul Techno Frozen or a few other places that repair them. They'll put better relays in, better quality relays in, and you'll never have to have a failure again. It's as simple as that. Why do people blast? And I've moaned about it a little bit. I've gone over the top. But why do people blast the Petron systems? They work exceptionally well. The security system is Fatcham Cat 1. The Lucas system, I don't like it. I know they don't go wrong, but they're not very good. In the W203, I'm low down on the floor, legs about 140 degrees, bend, steering wheel is adjusted all the way back. That's not comfortable. No, that's too much of a bend. I tell you what, when I did the last video, I sat in a Mini Traveller, a classic Mini Traveller, and my legs were at 90 degrees. Oh my god, because your pedals are down there, they're not over there. I can't get used to that driving position. And the steering wheel is like, it's not like here. The steering wheel is like sort of twisted down, like it's like driving a bus. The steering wheel is so, oh god, no. I've got to say, that's the only thing with Minis and Metros steering wheels like that. They're not like that, they're like that. Thank God that car manufacturers have sort of twisted it forwards. It's more like PlayStation steering wheels. I think a lot of car manufacturers have actually taken inspiration from the old PlayStation game console steering wheels that just face straight ahead. You've got a platform that sits on the table and the steering wheel is dead ahead. There's no bend. The Fiesta, the steering wheel is actually slightly more canted than the Focus and the Rover, as I'd expect for a car this age. But actually, it's right ahead of me, and the angle is quite nice. It's not as bad as a Metro. It's actually quite nice, and it's directly in front of you. I think in a Metro, the steering wheel is slightly to the left, if I'm right in thinking. And the pedal box is a bit dainty in a Metro. It's a very tiny car. Alex, the Civic in Europe actually ditched the Domini dashboard to use the Rover Dash. Yeah, because Honda in 2002 told Rover, we're not making these dashboards anymore. We've been making them for you only because our Civic's gone out. The Civic stopped production in 2000, so they were only making them for Rover. And then they said, we can't keep making them. So Rover had to go and redesign the whole thing. They did a very good job, but the build quality is not very good. The execution is shocking, but the design is good. If the dashboard sounded less like a wheelie bin and the vents were actually not like paper, I think that's a very good dashboard for the budget they had. Richard Woolley, thank you very much for telling me that. Alex, why did I forget the man's name? What a brilliant man. The 600 is well styled. The 45 is well styled. The 75 is equally as well styled. All of them. Tell us now about the coolant temp. Is it a facelift? No. Yes, it is. It's a 54 plate. About the cooling on the Focus, they have a feature that doesn't allow to overheat the engine if it gets too hot. It's in 3 stages, and temperature gauge shows cold or hot. Let me think. What did Nick say? It's his car. I think it's shown a quarter of the way. So I think it's between cold and hot. So you got working temperature in the middle. Sorry, I'm thinking of the gauge on the wrong side. So you got in the middle, working temp, cold. It's a quarter of the way. It's halfway between cold and the middle. That's all I can tell you. I sent an email where it is maybe good ideas to show on stream somehow. Yeah, let me have a look. Question, while I'm looking this up, on the Rover side, I think people are kind of aware that of what has happened to the Rover 45 Milo, if you have been following that. The car is going to be broken for spares. Now, I'm not going to mention anything further, but at the moment, the car is, actually, it's not at the property. It's gone somewhere else. I can't say anything more than that, because I'm acutely aware of the way that people operate in the community. There are very good people in the Rover community, but when someone might discover where a car is and it's up for breaking, yeah. That car, I'm not going to mention anymore, but the reason that it is being scrapped is very obvious. It's going to cost a fortune, a small fortune, to get that car back to square one. Forget the bumpers, forget the cosmetics. It's going to cost at least 800 in parts, and my labour changing a gearbox over and messing with a lot of things. I mean, CV boot. I said I really don't want to do another CV boot after doing my job, and I would probably want to be paid for that. And the owner wanted to pay me, and would pay me. Very nice lady. And quite frankly, we're looking at probably £1,200. If you took that to a garage, it would cost £2,000. The problem is with all this, and I think people kind of lost the plot. There's a few people that have emailed me saying, can you not just sell it as a whole, try and repair it? No. I've took Beatrix from a near scrap car to near concourse in less than a year, and I am saying it's too far gone. That might say something. Somebody offered me some money for it. Well, I don't own it, but as I say, it's not going to be sold. I wouldn't sell that car to anybody. It's too much of a big job. I had somebody message me saying that he could take it away for $450. No chance. Mainly because I've got a feeling that if somebody bought that, they would actually buy it to strip for spares themselves. I know what people are like. If people know that there's a car going for grabs, if they're a breaker, they'll buy it and then break it. They'll claim that they're going to repair it, and then you'll find it up for spares. And the owner wants to accumulate. Look, it's not about money, essentially. It is that. But the owner's got to get another car that's going to be reliable and commute. The Rover has not been reliable for a long time. She's lost confidence in a car she has owned for 6 years. That's a good amount of time. It's had some money spent on it. It's had a good run, but the end of the road has come. and it does hit some of them. Not everyone survives. In fact, unlike Beatrix, it's survival of the fittest. Beatrix was lucky to have me because, quite frankly, nobody else would have done that. Beatrix would have been scrapped by now for bits. And the car will be stripped of as many useful spares as possible to help Rover 45s survive and to improve the ones on the road. So I'm not going to give any more details out about that until I've done a video, which will be maybe soon. That's the way it is, and I will be. There are some bits that I'm going to pay the owner for my CVT. There's some unique bits on that car for the CVT system that I will be taking as emergency spares for Beatrix. Never hope to use them, but you never know. So that's really that in a nutshell. The rest of the car, it's a good car, essentially, with lots of nice bits on it, and it is how it is. It's sad. I was hoping to save that car, but you can't save them all, and I'm glad that this has kind of shown the reality a little bit. I can't save them all, and uneconomical value is the word here. The owner is looking to get another Rover 45, maybe another Rover 25 even. I've pointed her in the right direction. She'd like to go to the Pride of Longbridge because she saw how tightly knit the Rover community is and how much people love these cars. And it inspired her. And it inspired her to ask for help. And there we go. I came calling. Good job, eh? So, you know, it's interesting stories that people have to tell. But ultimately, yeah, the work can be done, but it's going to cost a lot of money. And I can't commit that massive amounts of time. I've got 3 cars, I've got a whole channel to run, I've got a bloody social life, I've got family, I've got friends, I've got a job. I can't commit because it's not on my doorstep. I've been to see that car 6 times. I've made an episode each time I've been. We've planned what work we're doing, what I'm doing, every time I come, because I know what tools to bring. This is a different story, you know, changing gearboxes on somebody's driveway. It's all fun. Watching it on video must be really fun. It's not fun. Changing a CV boot wasn't fun. This is where the reality of YouTubing kicks in a little bit. And that's something that I don't like to show too much. It's nasty sometimes. So I've had to pass. But I told the owner to get another one. And all the funds from that car, from scrapping it for metal and all the bits, is going to go to that new car. We're going to take some of the bits that we could, if it's a Rover 25 or 45, we will use some of the service bits. The spark plugs are brand new. I'm not, they're not going to the scrapyard. I'm bloody taking them out. That car's got a coil pack of mine and a HT lead that I gave it. No, I'm taking that back. There's no way that car is going to the scrapyard with very few bits on it, believe you me. So yeah, and I'm going to try and help the owner find another car. So anyway, I'm going to leave that. Sorry, I meant to put that in here because I think people have kind of lost sense that it's not my car, and there's a lot of things at play here with this car. It's where the owner stands, the loss of confidence, the uneconomical value. You can get another decent 45 for the cost of repairing all this. My lack of time to commit to jobs. It's a bad concoction of problems. It's life, I'm afraid, sadly. Tanas. Connector. Oh, God, okay, right. Okay, I'm going to have to look at this very, very carefully. I probably won't be able to show this on camera because I don't think people could see this. I will have a look at this. Thank you so much for sending me that. Oh God, no, sorry, I'm getting people out telling me Bill, I don't know if you're watching this, Bill. I'm sorry about your clutch master cylinder on your 45. It will be sorted. They're very easy to change. No, is it the clutch master? It's not the slave, it's the master. Sorry, I have emails about this. If you're watching this, Bill, I'm sorry to hear that. I did see your first email, but I didn't see the second one. Right, I'm going to get back on the comments. Right, so tell us, the first stage is the gauge turning to the red. Yeah, that's usual. Second stage, above the check light will light and some code will be set. The third is disable 2 cylinders and to make the air cool them, and if it still overheats, it will shut down the engine. Yeah. I've never known a Focus to actually get to that stage personally. I think it's always, oh dear, what's wrong? But it's the same for the petrols. The diesels have a feature: you will not run out of fuel, so you don't need to bleed the system. Basically, there will always be at least 2 litres of diesel in the tank that you can't use. I didn't know that one. But that would be ideal, because if you did run out of fuel, like on old diesels, bleeding it, bit of a problem, eh? Yeah. Andrew Walsh, hello, sir. Our Sprinter van at work would not start up at all as the boss ran the diesel too low. It was empty on fuel. I went for a gallon of diesel, come back, poured it in, and it fired up. You got lucky there. Yeah, but would air not be in the system now? Air would be in the system if you ran it low. That's very lucky, that is. There's no way of air bleeding out of a diesel automatically. There's no automatic bleed valve. I might have got that wrong. Oh, excuse me. But now in. Apparently Mark III Focus key fobs can be basically made to work on a Mark 1 somehow, or at least the fobs I see for sale, very similar to Mark III fobs. Yeah, you can get you can program in. You can program them in. I've recently done some swapping over. Keys. Yeah, I've got too many keys. Basically the keys on my Mark 1, the lock button, the buttons collapsed. It doesn't make that click when it works, but it doesn't make that click. So I thought I'll swap the front of it over, because you can swap the front of it over because the little immobilizer chips in the backside with the battery. So I swap the front over with a decent second-hand one that I know works, and that one's not functioning properly. I have to click the fob a few times for it to respond. It's like blaming Beatrix. It's gone deaf. So yeah, the buttons click nicely, but it doesn't work any better than the old one. So I've got to think about putting the old one back on now. I've had a new keyblade cut, and I've got to. Oh well, I discovered one thing. You can only program 4 keys into the GM module for the central locking. Guess what happened when I tried to program? Well, I've got my main key, I've got a spare key. They can both open the car and start the engine. There's a chip in the spare one. The third key that I tried to make, I didn't even get as far as programming it to the engine, because I got distracted by this problem. Basically what you have to do when program a new key in, you don't have to put each individual key in to program a new one to the GM module. You just put the key in, twist it, turn it on and off, ignition on and off several times within a few seconds, wait for the beep, press a button, and it should respond. You press any button, and then there should be a second beep, and that means your fob is now programmed to the central locking GM module. Fantastic. Guess what happened after I programmed that third fob in? The first fob, my main fob, stopped working. It would only start the engine or get into the car. It would not operate the central locking. So what's happened here is, even though I've got 2 keys, and I've only thought that this car's only had 2 keys, turns out some idiot, I think, has been programming for some stupid reason more than 1 key. Because what happens is you've only got 4. The memory on the GM module can only contain 4 keys. Okay, I may go about this a different way. If I had 4 scan, I should get 4 scan. I could go into the computer and delete all the keys and start again, or go to a garage and they'll delete it for me. Or you can get another GM module and then programming all the keys straight away. The problem is with getting another one is that they probably have keys programmed to them anyway. Because what's happened is, so I assumed keys the main one and the spare one, that's number 1 and 2. So there should be 2 spaces left. Oh no, someone's done something before, and the main key was, well, the spare key was number 3 and the main key was number 4. So guess what? Because there was another 2 old keys that don't exist, they were programmed strangely to the car. Number 4, as soon as I programmed the new one in, which the third one, number 4 vanished. Do you understand? You can only have 4 programmed to the module at any one time. Absolutely rubbish. So now I had to go back and reprogram my other 2. So basically what I did was I had to program all the keys a few times, because if you think about it, my third key is now in that 4 and my main key is now being kicked out of touch. So my spare key that I had with the car, that second key, I had to do the same thing, because basically I'm going to kick another key out of touch. You understand? So basically I had to put the main key back in again, that was unprogrammed now to the central locking, program that again, and then it kicked the spare key out, the second key, and then I had to put that key in and then program that and then kick the third one out again to get back to square one. What a pain in the ass. Oh my god, I was screwing. I didn't even get as far as the immobilizer. You can program it quite nicely. You have to put all 3 keys in, turn it, turn it, take the first key out, second one, turn it, third key, turn it, and it should be programmed and start the engine. I didn't cover that in a video. I will cover that in a video, but my god, that is an absolute pain. So when you think you know your car, you don't. Someone's been messing around. I do need to get ForScan, because I could delete all 4 keys, start again. Andrew, it must be a system where it cuts the engine if the fuel is too low to prevent air ingress and no need for priming. It's possible that. Tell us, mine was better, but the lock button unsoldered itself from the board. I think that's what's happened with the one I've just put on there. So maybe I need to go back to the old one, and I'll just buy another one. There's plenty of second-hand keys, and I'll just keep buying a few till I find a good one. That's okay. Alex, I love the AliExpress sellers will sell keys already cut from a picture or code. That's how I did mine. Just order, code with ForScan and good to go. Exactly. Use ForScan to code as well. Maybe I should do that. I think I should really do that. I've just never seen the need. Unless I've got multiple Mark 1 Focuses with problems, then I won't need ForScan. I've never really needed it. The seller that I used on eBay, he cut me a key. It didn't work. I took a picture. You've got to take an overhead and a side. And they cut me a key. Didn't work. Couldn't open any door. Brilliant. So I sent the picture back. I said, look, this is the key you've sent me. It won't work in any of the doors. This is the key. I took a picture of the good spare key. And they took a picture. I took another picture of the key. They emailed me back straight away saying, sorry, Andrew, we can see what the problem is. We'll get a new one sent out to you. £8. Fantastic service. Clever machines, but I think that must have been something iffy there. I don't know what happened there. How do you find out if a Mark 1 has remote central locking? You should have a remote fob. If you've got central locking, if you haven't got it, it's a blank key. But unless it's a CL model, you will have remote central locking. The CL being the poverty spec. LX, Zetec, Gear, they've all got central locking, remote central locking. Every single one of them have the capacity for central locking apart from the CL. So if you wanted to put a remote fob on a CL, you're going to have to buy a GM module or get one out of a Zetec or LX. Delete all the keys and start again, because they have the capacity. There's different parts numbers for the GM modules. Basically, I think there's three of them. One of them is for the CL, so for non-remote central locking. The second module is for LX, Zetec, and gears for remote central locking. The ST170 GM module is completely different. It is for, I think it's to do with the perimeter alarm system. So there's three different types of GM modules. They've all got their own unique parts number. That's as simple as I put it. Oh, without having a remote key around. Sorry, I didn't read that. That was silly of me. Depends on the spec of your car. What's the spec of it? Because most of them would be the same, even in Europe. Tadas, it's funny because Ford TIS saying that programming must be done at the same time for all remote transmitters. That's wrong. That's wrong. Absolutely not. You don't have to put the key in out, take it out. You don't have to do that. Why do they? I don't know why they insist on that. You just do it one at a time. Be aware of ForScan. You need good cables because the China crap will not work with OBD2. I got scammed with cheap cables. Yeah, I've seen a few of them going around. Yeah, there's plenty of. Is it 327? Is it or something like that? You can scan codes with the old Fords, like Mark 1. Yes, I mean I've got a good scan tool that does everything. Just doesn't do the keys. I've got to do the keys. Andrew, hi Andrew, forget to say good evening. My Mark 1 Focus Y-Reg MOT is due in January. My advisory is rear subframe corroded and various back-end rust problems. Engine gearbox is great, so quiet. Should I fix this? Yeah. Corroded. Could you take a picture and send it to me in an email? Because I can tell by looking at it. Because most subframes are put down as an advisory for corrosion when they actually aren't looking that bad. In fact, very rarely have I seen a Mark 1 subframe go really bad where they've got holes and it's dangerous. They do rust around where the bolt goes through the spring. So you've got the spring and you've got the bolt at the top of the spring. They rust around there. But rarely have I seen one go through. They just look really bad. The back arms can be changed. Everything can be changed, but it might have to be done in one go, rather than you coming back and doing it all again. This is a problem on Mark 1s that I recommend. Take a deep breath and a brave heart, get some money aside, some time, stuff it in a good place, whether it's the garage, a nice bit of driveway, somewhere where you're going to leave that car for a month. Set yourself a month, maybe more, to sort this out. Day by day, bit by bit, hour by hour. Stripping the back of the car. Put the car on axle stands and start stripping that subframe and dropping the whole thing. If you've got a good jack and some blocks of wood, you can lower the whole thing down, disconnect the brakes, disconnect the brake lines, brake cables. You can drop the whole thing. So it's all doable in situ, believe you me. And then you can start assessing what needs to come off. You can take bits off to make it easy to drop the subframe. You can take arms off if you can get them off. You might have to cut all the bolts out because all the bolts are gone. You need all new bolts with new arms. They all come as kits. Everything is easy. It's a no fault. Alex, a friend has a Mark 1, has the 6-spoke wheel trims. If it's a CL. Yeah, it might be. Or an LX. He bought it used and has no remote key and offered to make him a Mark 3 fob. No. His car is a CL then. It is a CL. No remote central locking. The only way of doing it is by getting a module out of an LX Zetec gear. Simple as that. Putting it in his car and then programming the keys to that module. GM is after the facelift. Before it was a central timing module and anti-theft double locking module. To be fair, I only go what it says in the book, and you're probably fairly right. There was a naming change. It does all the same things though. It does all the same things. Yeah, I've got a spare timing module. Those big things that stick on. Yeah, I know. Uh, they they uh they're identical. Very few things to go wrong with that. I've been under the back end and it's crusty. It really is the beam across. Yeah, can you send me some pictures? Cheers, Andrew. Yeah, send me some pictures because I can't really assess it. My term, my visual of crusting and somebody else's might be slightly different or slightly worse or whatever. My front subframe was so bad that there was a hole and gaps. Back one is still original. Yeah. I've got to be honest with you. I made an effort with my subframe. I got to it just in time. But now you can get brand new ones. You can get brand new front subframes. You can get brand new back ones. To be fair, I love the fact that I've still got all the originals on the car. So it's nice to have. But you can get it. You can get it all now. Tada, I was going to say, Tadas, I'm pretty certain that the front and rear subframes that you can buy aftermarket are made possibly near you. Might be in Poland. There's one. It's either Poland, Czechoslovakia. No. No. There's somewhere else. I'm trying to think of a place now. There's a few places that make them. I can't remember which one it is. I'll get it up in my head in a second. Alex, thank you. I thought he might just have lost the fob. No, it's not. Gem is one module and the pre-facelift was two modules and all the wiring is different. I thought it was one module. So it's two separate modules at the same time. I have to read into that because I thought it was actually one module. Maybe they just integrated the two modules into one as they usually do. I'll have to have a look into that because I wasn't aware that there were two different modules. Brother Joe, hello there. How are you, buddy? Nice to see you. How are you, sir? Nice to see you on the channel. I'm glad you can join for a live stream because I know how busy things are half the time. Pure Evil, evening. Hello, sir. How are you? Good evening. It is Friday evening. Everything is going well. The new car looks really tidy. Thank you very much. It is a tidy car. I say it's tidy. It's quite straight. Tiny bit of scabbiness on the arches at the back. But actually, from what I've discovered very recently, it doesn't look as bad as what I first thought. Maybe a little bit of filler might help. No bodging, just a bit of filler to just make it look a bit more tidy. There's enough metal in it, put it that way. Aztec, hello buddy, how are you? Nice to see you. Robert Joe, I'm well, thank you. How are you doing? I'm okay. I'm good. I'm very good, busy, tired, and spinning plates as in the YouTube live. But I'm all good. I've been watching your Rover 45 videos again. Nice, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad that the videos are reaching a wider audience. No, I like that. I've done so much on that car. Fortunately, I was meant to do a live stream on Wednesday, 2 days ago, changing a timing belt on Milo. Unfortunately, Milo decided he didn't want to have a timing belt change and decided he'd rather just go to the scrapyard by blowing its gearbox, having, I think the train arm bush had given up at the back end, and a host of engine leaks that were not there the last time I saw the car 3 weeks ago. Nasty. So yeah, I was going to do that as a live stream. I don't think any other YouTuber does that. A live stream working on your car. I don't know how it was going to work, but I ended up, I had it all ready as well. And the owner was like, I've broken down, the gearbox has blown up. And there I went in my emergency tow truck of a 45, expecting chaos and just coolant leaking on the floor, oil leaking on the floor, gearbox kind of leaking on the floor because most of it had gone. Not good. Talis, yeah, they integrated into one, and I'm not sure about the specs of Gem because mine was without the wiper timers and it was just a plug and play with one wire added. Mine had that. Mine had the extra wire in the wiper stalk. So not everybody has that wire. I might actually point that out to people. But I think if you've got a facelift, you will have that wire. Alex, Friends Mark 1 is funny. 2001 converted to LPG. Was a 1.4 but swapped to 1.6. That's interesting. So that's a converted one. In the UK, we had a Mark 1 Focus that was advertised as the bi-fuel model. It was a proper model, fitted from the factory, an LPG bi-fuel car. They were only ever fitted to the 1.8 Zetec petrols from around 2001, the 2001 facelift to 2003, I believe. They weren't very popular, not many were made. Basically, you had instead of a spare wheel, you didn't get a spare wheel, you had an LPG tank in the spare wheel well, and you had a filler pipe that goes, so you've got the normal filler pipe on is it the right hand side, you had another filler cap for the LPG on the on the left hand side, so that was weird. You had a switch on the dashboard to switch over from LPG to petrol, and all the injectors under the bonnet, my god, what a mess. Not many of them survive because they tend to get rather hot, those engines. LPG makes a petrol engine burn hotter. And burnt valve seats are a big thing with them. There are only 40 left in the UK. I'm screaming and shouting. Does anybody know one or seen one? Because can someone just preserve one? Okay, in the UK, LPG is being phased out. You won't be able to use it as an LPG car, but still, please preserve one. Otherwise, I'll probably, if I see one, I'll buy one. They're so rare and just weird. So it's like a special fill. Yeah, liquid petroleum gas. It's I'm trying to describe it now. LPG. It's like a lighter fuel almost. Like a butane gas. Butane's very similar. Much cheaper than petrol. And LPG was a big thing in the sort of late 90s, early noughties, probably around that time, maybe a bit longer, where fuel economy was a concern. LPG was half the cost of petrol. But the problem is with LPG in the UK especially, is not many fuel stations were supplied with it. So unless you lived and knew an LPG station roughly around by you, it's not viable to own one because you'd be traveling miles to get to the station. So it didn't really take off. It's a shame. I hope people preserve cars like that because I think it's a nice, important piece of automotive history to show that there were alternatives to petrol and diesel. Diesel was touted as fantastically clean by our stupid government. LPG got kicked down the wind as a result of that. But Ford took note. They took note. There's not much literature on the LPGs, but if you type in Focus Mark 1 LPG, type it in, they'll come up. There'll be, I think there's a video of one of them, so you can see what it's like. You wouldn't be able to tell apart from the extra filler cap and the switch. That's it. You wouldn't be able to tell unless you look under the bonnet. Costs half the petrol. Only in stations that carry it. Problem. Does it pack the same punch as the petrol? debatable, actually. I don't. The purpose of LPG was not to pack more punch or just the same. It was for economy. I do think engines ran a little bit detuned as a result of it, but not much. Not much. But buying an LPG car and then saying to the dealer, how fast does it go? Those two things don't go together. If you're looking at LPGs, you're concerned about economy, not performance. Tell us, it does run hot, but they are clean. My Cougar has an LPG aftermarket conversion, and I had a Volvo with it and never burnt valves. That's interesting because I always hear of burnt valves with LPGs, where you need to basically have new valves and grind them in as such. God, valve grinding. That's something I've not done, but always been tempted to. Well, I don't want to say that because I don't want any engine dropping a valve, and CVHs tend to drop the odd valve occasionally, so fingers crossed that doesn't happen. I might have some valve stem seals to look at if that engine continues to, it's only a little bit of blue smoke and I can live with it, but I'll see what I can do instead of taking the engine apart. But CVHs and oil stem seals, yeah, tend to go together badly, don't they? Portugal is accurate. I see what you mean there. You can say the same about the UK. Tell us, butane, propane, LPG. That's it, it's propane as well. There we go, I had the bit of it on my head. It's the same but less power, a little bit more fuel usage but much cheaper. There you go. Quick question, is the Dacia pronounced Dacia or Dacia? Dacia. Dacia, and I've got it wrong myself, is something that I think we started that poorly. I blame Top Gear for calling it Dacia. Like James May used to make jokes about the Dacia Sanderos. Dacia, wrong. Dacia. It's always Dacia. The marketing, it's Dacia, not Dacia. There were generations of LPG. The fourth was that every cylinder had an injector, but you needed to drill the intake. So instead of a single injector. That's interesting. I'm totally lost with this stream. Never knew it existed. Yeah, LPG's been it was a thing. The thing is, it's a bit before your time, buddy. And I only really kind of heard about it when I was little. It's died a death. You very rarely see LPG cars now, and in fact, I'm actually just gonna check. Think LPG. I think 2026 is the date. It generally looks like the 2026 for the UK at least is kind of a cut-off, because I believe that a lot of households use LPG gas boilers. Well, that's the idea, LPG, but the cut-off might be 2026 for them. It's whether LPG, if the cut-off for LPG gas boilers is 2026 in the UK, that spells the death for the fuel as it is. Romanians say Dacia, being a Romanian brand, that's the correct form. Exactly. It's not fully dead here, hence bringing up Dacia. They will still send brand new LPG Santeros. That's ridiculous. We don't get them in the UK. No way. That's interesting. But maybe I say it's a first world thing. I know in Brazil LPG is still going, but that's a third world country. Maybe not, I don't know. It's a shame because LPG is another choice. And once again, Our precious government shutting all the doors. Diesel, gone. Petrol, gone. LPG, gone. We just have to have electric. Rubbish. Just a quick one. I thought your watch looked cool when you wore it at the car show which you streamed. My watch? Bloody hell. Well, it's better than somebody asking about my dressing gown. Yeah? Goodness me. Where is it gone? This? I've had this a number of years. I'll be honest with you, it's actually unbranded. Amazon. Why do I wear a watch when you can tell the time on your phone? I like watches. Watches are classy. Sorry, I feel complete with a watch on my hand, and I have to wear one for work because for some, well, just technical reasons, I have to wear one. Just as timekeeping is important in my job. So I wear one anyway. So I'm not, and also if you notice it's analog. You know, back in the day, digital watches were like the thing. Now it's analog. You notice a lot of cars are doing that with their clocks and their cars. It's not analog no more. No digits, no dot matrix disappearing letters. It's analog, a clock. I find that so cool that we've gone retro, but in a good way. Some things were best left as they were. I'm not suggesting that we should go back to carburetors, but let's just say some things were just better. Sorry, I've just lost the stream. Azteca might get you a watch. No, there was no LPG ECU. There was 4 injectors on the engine with pipes to the intake. It's complicated, and the worst part is there isn't any leak. It's instant and huge fireball. Oops. I can understand that because where they sit right above the engine. Not good. Not good. There's nowhere for them to go. There isn't an ECU. It is just a switch. It's an electronic, probably solenoid activated relay that opens and closes some lines. That's it. Becca, hi, just finished watching your reveal. Ruby looks awesome, like the bonus part at the end of the video. So hello, I haven't seen you on this channel or any live stream, so welcome to the channel. I always I know new faces. I know old ones, I know new faces. So you are a new face, welcome. And thank you for finding me. I'm glad. I'm glad the reveal went well. I wanted to make it perfect because the last time I revealed a new car, it was Beatrix, and I think only 3 people watched the premiere of that video. I was a tiny YouTuber back then, expected. That video has just about reached, I think, 900 views. The original video of Beatrix when it looked like a pile of dog crap. Yeah. So I wanted to make a nice video and present it. I'm very lucky actually. That driveway out there is a shared driveway, and my God, the time where there is no cars on that driveway, I think it's only Christmas Day. Well, even then there's always a car. It's probably one of mine. But on Christmas Day is the only day where that driveway is empty. I shouldn't really say that. That's proper bad security, that is. But for some reason, on the day I was filming, it was sunny and dry, and every single one of my neighbours had gone to work, or most of them, and there was no cars on the driveway. So I thought, put it slap bang in the middle of the driveway, car cover on, get on with it. How amazing is that? I couldn't ask for a better opportunity. I couldn't take it down to the garages. I could have done a reveal down there, but the car's not insured. Well, it isn't insured. It's SORNed, not insured at the moment. I am going to insure it in the next few days. It's SORNed. So therefore, it's got an MOT, but it's SORNed. So I don't really want to be breaking the law, trying to drive it 2 minutes down the road. You never know. And you know what people are like. I play by the rules. I was tempted though to try and think, could I do it? No, I've got to do it up here because the car has no tax, and I'm not taxing it for 6 days. You know, they'll take, I don't know, I think it's £17 on that car. It's not bad on the tax, but I'm not paying 17 quid for it to drive 2 minutes down the road. Not doing that at all. Like the bonus part at the end too. I thought I'd put that in because I didn't know what. To be honest with you, with Beatrix, I was disappointed with that car because on the first episode, when I received the car, I was a little bit less experienced, and I just think, yeah, it was stressful. Beatrix getting her off the tow truck, two C's brakes at the back. It turned out we couldn't push it on the driveway. Me and the breakdown man were heaving on that driveway. I'll tell you, I set the camera up on the tripod, and all you'd have seen is two men heaving a car onto the driveway. It was awful. It wouldn't even start. It was that low on fuel. It just wouldn't do it. The battery was dead. It was dead, that Lion battery. And the next shot that you see is it's on the driveway. I felt disappointed at that. I thought I could have filmed something. So I thought I'll film the guy driving up the delivery truck, and then I'll film myself driving onto my own driveway. So the only bit of driving I've done on that car is literally 50 yards from the point at which it got off the road to driving on the driveway. So I've taken a bit of a risk for that car, but I know it drives nicely. I've seen it drive nicely, so nice. Rover Joe, did I show you how bad the seals are on my Honda Civic? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Do they go? Are they as bad? Are they worse on Honda Civics and Rovers by any chance? Because I think the build quality on the Rovers, the HHRs and 400s, they must be better. I think they're far better. I think age has got to the footwells a little bit, but I rarely hear of 445 having rotten seals unless they've been really neglected or it's an extremely bad example. Alex, Brazil actually uses CNG, I think. Oh yeah, compressed natural gas. We used to try that over here about 20 years ago. It never really worked out. It's just it's too different. Tadas, come to Lithuania. I think Lithuania makes a lot of Mark 1 parts, Tadas. That's what I was thinking of. I forgot that's where you are. You will see almost every fuel station with LPG and maybe a new car. That's unbelievable. So clearly different infrastructure. Is it because the infrastructure is basically strong on LPG? Is there a push to move away from LPG at all? Or is there just, it is just the way it is and there's no push from the government? As in Europe, there's a big push everywhere in Europe. It depends what Lithuania's stance on emissions is. Personally, it's absolutely pointless. What we do with our ultra low emission zones, the one that's coming in London is barbaric. There's a group of people that there's about 400 cameras around London, and there's people, Facebook groups, planning to cut them off. 45 cameras have been cut off in the last few weeks. There's a bloke who actually put it on TikTok. 45, literally, it's a garage full of cameras, camera heads, literally cut the wire, impact gun, get the bolt out, take the camera. Do you know what? Fair play. I don't condone criminal damage, but I think that's the best form of it. Because I'm sorry, what they're doing is wrong. It's control. I hate it. And what we're doing in this country, clean air zones, ultra low emission zones, I don't care about what we're doing. I want to know what the Chinese are doing. Because I tell you something, what we do to affect the global climate emissions is like that. Europe is like that. China is like that. What's the point in doing what we're doing if China are not going to basically go back? Wind it back in. Now, arguably, we buy a lot of stuff from China. So maybe we're responsible. Maybe we should buy less stuff from China. Maybe Europe needs to start manufacturing stuff more that it used to instead of relying on China. Because quite frankly, this is bad. It's bad for everything. So fraud. The whole thing's fraud. And it's going to end badly, I think, for someone. I don't think, I think there's too much strength in numbers. I think there's a small group of people so cross now that they have gone down the length of, we need to cut these cameras off. And I think these are small little things that are starting to happen everywhere now in Europe, because governments are now seeking to control people's movements and behaviour, especially with these petrol and diesel bans, clean air zones. It's wrong. It's wrong. It is a form of coercive control. You can't force people to do these things. And I do think it will end badly. That's my political message in this another ranty live stream as such, for those of you who are either watching now or later on. Aztec looked cool. Hold on. Oh, sorry. I buy car parts from Lithuania. I think I've bought a load from Lithuania. I've had some powder coated. Oh, that's right. I had to buy another sump pan for my Focus because it's an automatic gearbox. You can the 4F27E. You can buy the sump pans from Lithuania for about 30 quid. The one that I had on the car was very badly rusty. In fact, it looked as if it was going to rust through. I could have resprayed it, but I think it was too risky. So I bought a powder coated one, brand new. Just it's missing the sticker, but the sticker was lost years ago. Brilliant. It's a lovely little sump that is now. Yeah, happy with that one. Just looks nice underneath the car instead of looking at a rusty steel sump. I've been my saviour so many times. I know the company. It's quicker to tell the time. Also makes you a gentleman. Oh no, you make me sound like an old man. Well, maybe I'm a bit old in the head. I'm a bit older than my years in my head. Put it that way. I'll say that again. Nah. Well, to be fair, most people my age don't wear a watch. Mainly because they don't need one for work. And secondly, it probably does make them probably feel a bit old. Don't know why. But I just like looking at my watch. I don't know why. It's nice to wear. It's a fashion statement. Don't need a watch, do you? We've got phones. Don't need a watch. It's on my computer. The time is everywhere. There's no excuse to not know the time. But wearing a watch now, people still buy watches. There's a factory not far from where I live, and nobody knows what factory it is. They don't advertise their factory. And do you know why? Because that factory refurbish and repair Rolex watches. People with money, they still buy Rolexes. People still buy watches because it's fashion accessory. But they can't, the thing is, they can't advertise their business because it's Rolex watches. Do you understand? They'd have a break-in every week. So, you know, there's factories all around the place that repair and remake a lot of expensive stuff, but they'd never advertise because of security. You don't realise this in this world. God, I'm talking about watches. Oh, we are. I haven't seen your comment. Although I would never pay for a Rolex even after I had the money. No, they're the best. They're the best. No, I prefer cars and Rolexes. Cars were much better back then. Yeah, I think the Fiesta is refreshing. I've already started delving into this car, and I feel like I'm back in the P6 days. Rover P6, carburettor, distributor, timing with a strobe gun, tuning it properly, solid discs, no ABS, no CAT, no ECUs, barely any electrics, apart from electric windows, nice. When they both work, one doesn't want to work and one kind of decides not to work, which is interesting. So yeah, going on from that one. And this car kind of takes me back to the basics of classic cars. And I've been around this car now for a bit, and I see the build quality in these Mark III Fiestas. People knock these. I think there's plenty of people who are going to put in the comments, I used to have one. They were shite boxes because they just obliterated. The body just rusted to hell. Yeah, it's Fiestas for its Fords this age, fix or repair daily, especially from that age. But I'm looking around that car and I see one, not only a very good example that was well built in the first place, but I think the build quality actually is pretty good compared with probably Fords from the mid noughties. I'd say Ford lost it after 2005. I think some of the build quality is pretty poor on Fiestas and Mondeos and Focuses after 2005. I don't think Mark 1s are particularly great in the interior department. I think KAs are extremely cheap, and they look cheap, they feel cheap, but they were a disposable car. I don't think Ford made a penny on that car. It was just a gimmick to try and get young people into cars. Low insurance bracket, tiny car. Think so, really. I think the build quality is very good, very good. I think some of the plastics are a bit 80s, cheap, nasty, easily damaged. But I think the trim is excellent. The material trim. There's a lot of nice things about that car. Tell us, no, there is an ECU of LPG that talks with the car ECU, and the LPG is under pressure always. Is this the Focus Mark 1 LPG? Because I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you know more than me. But these were factory fitted in the UK. They were never released abroad for as far as I was aware. There's conversions. But this one wasn't a conversion. It was factory fitted. Now, whether the factory fitted stuff is much different than a converted kit, it might not be, because Ford would have had to have gone to an LPG supplier to do all this. They wouldn't have the experience. So they would have collaborated with an LPG supplier. So maybe it was in the form of a kit, but it was tweaked for Ford purposes. That's my understanding. Aztec, just a quick question. Are you into modifying cars, or do you prefer keeping them standard? I've messed about with cars, but not in an extreme way. Paintwork, mainly. Wacky wheels, adding electrical items that were never there in the first place, gadgets, adding gadgets. That was what I was into. Never lowering cars, never coilovers, no. Not like altering the track or bigger, fatter wheels, no. These days I like cars as they are, intended, okay? I prefer that side of things. I believe that Focus Mark 1s are only best when they are standard. When they're messed about with in the suspension department and the engine department, you're compromising that. But there are many examples that have been modified really well. Some are good, some are not. It depends on your taste. It's each to their own, not my cars. I've seen some really good modified Mark 1s down the years. I've equally seen some shocking ones. In fact, I think some of them are so shocking, even the fellas who are into modifying Mark 1s more than I am, way more than I am, they would look at some of these modified Focuses and think, that's a pile of drivel. They're that bad and tacky and just actually embarrassing. You wouldn't want to be seen in one, pretty much. I just think there was a point with my Mark 1 when I messed about with it where I thought, this isn't good. Do you know what? Let's go back to standard, because I believe that the value, the nostalgia and the interest is standard. Do you know what? I've repeated myself a million times. People must get bored of me saying that. But it really will stand the test of time. People are going to look back at some of what I said in these videos in 5-10 years and think, he was right. Keeping these cars as they are is better than messing about with them. Simple as. I've got no problems with modified Focus Mark 1s as long as it's tasteful. And that is a bit more, it's interpretation. Because there's a fine line for me between tacky, bad, and good modifiers. Okay? I like subtle modifications. My Focus Mark 1 has got a few mods. It has an air deflector on the slam panel, which was only ever fitted to the 2-litre automatics. Since I did a video highlighting the benefits of the cool air coming from below the radiator, there was a supply of them from Ford. I think there was about 15 of them. I think 8 people bought them as a result of my video. And I think they might have run out because I've literally encouraged people to buy them. So if you've got one, even if you have to break your Mark 1, keep it, because they're good items. They were fitted to the 2-litre automatics for a very good reason. That is cooler air, less dense, better performance. Especially as the 2-litre automatics would have been fitted with tow bars, and most likely they would have been estates. Most 2-litre automatics, very rare cars, but most of them are estates, gear estates. Sometimes on YouTube you just hit the algorithm and get crazy amounts of views on your videos. I hope to God that reveal hits an algorithm, because I will be actually sharing that video with all the Mark III Fiesta Facebook groups to let them know who I am, what I'm about, and my videos are going to be, as the title of this video is called, New Car, Same Mindset. My mindset doesn't change. I will go in there with the same mindset I have with both my other cars. The only thing I will say is I have to be careful about the money that I spend on this car, because it's not staying. Can't stay. It's not a car that I will be keeping. It's a car that I will enjoy and move on. One of you guys might get it. Obviously, if you have to be in the UK, sorry Tadas. If you want a Ford Fiesta and you don't mind an automatic CVT, they're not as bad as you think. The ones that work like that, touchwood, they're the good ones. The CTXs that used to fail at low mileages. It's a CVT, Beatrix, Milo, the gearbox failed because of a leak. They can leak occasionally, not very often. So yeah, it's. I think it's one of them cars where I may want to get a spare gearbox. There's one that's up for breaking, and I might ask to see if I can take the gearbox, if it's a working gearbox, and that gearbox will go with Ruby wherever she goes. It's an insurance policy in case you have a gearbox failure, but I think not. I'm changing the fluid. Right now, that fluid is draining out the gearbox, and I'm leaving it to drain overnight, over a good week, I suspect. So it's going to get some nice fresh fluid, although the fluid is very good. So one of you will have that. You could have that if you wanted it. I'll put it there. I will assess things in 12 months' time. It's a possibility I might keep it for a bit longer, but I've got a feeling it might be moved on. I don't know. Who knows? But I have to be careful about the money I spend on this car. So everything has to be done. Well, I've got to say, Mark III Fiesta parts are cheap, and I'll do all the work. Bodywork, I hope the arches are okay. From what I've seen, they're okay. From what I see, there has been some previous fiberglassing. Oh dear. Spoilers. I suspect though, with cars of the 80s, I think most Fords, no matter how pristine they look, I reckon 90% of them to have survived to this day, somewhere down the line, an owner has bodged a hole because welding's expensive and we need to get it through the MOT, patch it up with a bit of fiberglass and get it through. That was a common thing back in the day, and that's why many of these survive. It's not surprising that I've seen a couple of bad points about the car, but they're minor, very minor. So if you have a car that isn't MOT'd, do you have to take it on the tray to the garage? No, 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 no. You are you have to have insurance. You must have insurance. Number one, if you drive a car on the road, you must have insurance. Okay? But you can drive a car, as I did it with Beatrix, and a lot of people have done it. You can drive a car to a garage with no tax, okay? No tax at all, and no MOT. You can drive there. You have to book it. Phone the garage, book the MOT. If you get stopped by the police, if you're very unlucky and they pull you because they notice you haven't got tax or MOT, you say, I booked in at this station. They'll confirm that with the garage and you're on your way. Because when you get that, if you get the MOT pass, then you can tax it. I always tax it immediately because it's a blurry line, that is. When you MOT a car, I've seen people where they MOT it and it passes, they pick it up and they drive it home without the tax. Now that's a blur edge now. And if the police pull you over for that, they'll know the car has just passed its MOT. Why have you not taxed it? Now there is a bit of a delay, but if you tax it, there is a delay. It won't show on their record straight away, but you'll have proof on your phone that you get an email saying, I've paid for the tax, right? So you can show that and you'll be on your way. But if you have not taxed your car, you're in a blurry zone there. They can easily seize your car for that. So my advice is, in that situation, I did it with Beatrix, you sit in the car, you tax it there and then. Then you can drive home with that email confirmation and know if you get pulled over, you're not going to get done and your car's not going to get seized. Usually your car gets seized if it's insurance, but with tax, I think it could be a warning, could be a fine, could be seizure. I've known all three. Depends on the situation. I've got a feeling though, one of them was no insurance as well, so that was bad on the person. You should have insurance. So that's my advice. If the car fails the MOT, this is the problem. This is a blur zone, this is. Because if your car fails the MOT on something dangerous, you can't legally drive that home. Even though you've got insurance, you can't drive that home to take it home to repair it. Because that's what I would do, because I wouldn't let them repair it. I'd repair it unless I knew I couldn't do it. In that situation, I would run the risk of being caught without insurance. The reason being, your insurers will not insure. If you had an accident in that car on the way back from that fail, you are in trouble with the insurers. They will not pay out because you are uninsured. They will only insure you if your car is roadworthy. And if your car has failed the MOT, it's not roadworthy. So therefore, your car is not insured. So don't have a crash on the way back. You take your car home and you be careful. And also, if you get caught by the police and you have to explain, it failed the MOT, I'm taking it home, because you do have a right of repair. Garages cannot force you to basically hand them, they keep the keys. You have that, you have to have it repaired here. You can't drive it away, it's illegal. Don't. You have a right to repair. The problem is that the only way of doing it completely above board and legally, in terms of insurance and the fact you haven't got an MOT and can't tax it, obviously, as a result, is by trailing it home. So basically getting recovery to take it from the garage back home. That's the only way you can do that. Then you repair it, book another MOT, and you're covered again. That's a problem, and it's something that I've encountered. I'd like to say that I haven't done that. I have, and I think a lot of people have, because I have a right to repair my car. And quite frankly, back in the day, the garage was about half a mile from my parents. I lived at home then. Now that garage is 8 miles away from me. That's too far. I'd have to consider my options, depending on what it fails on. Just a little inkling. So I hope I've made that very clear about the UK. In the UK, it's like that. I don't know what it's like abroad. Can someone make a point of that. Rover Joe, Hondas are better. I'm sorry, I've been keeping you waiting, buddy. Hondas are better, but in my case, the rot was worse than due to being parked on grass. Damn. Oh no. If anybody doesn't think why grass causes rust, it's moisture. Grass holds moisture, and honestly, the moisture on the bottom of the car, it's dreadful. Honestly, don't do it, guys. Parking on grass, oh dearie me. Strangely enough, this Fiesta was owned by the family that took it on from the deceased owner. They parked it on grass, I believe. Oh no, might have been somebody else actually. It's been for a couple of people since then, only briefly. It basically, from what I can recall, that car was owned by the family for a bit. They sold it to they gave it to a dealer. Someone started a recommission. I don't know who. They sold it to a dealer, and then the dealer sold it to someone, I believe, who is in the Mark III club or around the Mark III community. I think I know who he is. And then the person who I bought it off, he bought it from him. But it was parked on grass at some point, so I'm glad that car has not suffered. It's bad. But I didn't think Hondas were better. I really don't. I mean, I've never seen a Rover HHR with bad rot, unless it's in the footwells as usual. Tanas, they've started to push for electric. Oh, same here then. That's not very good. Alex, the Chevrolet sold the LPG before going out of Europe. Now only Dacia on the whole range. Rover Joe, we need our old industries back, but they're all gone. Bust in the UK. We rely on other countries now. I'm afraid I was talking to someone the other day it was a very passionate conversation about British manufacturing. And I think it can only be answered in a couple of words. We sold the family silver, and we deserve to be punished for that. We cannot and should never be trusted to run car companies. Jaguar Land Rover is going the same way now. It's sad, but the British people cannot run their own country. They can't run anything. I think the British people, to those of you who are looking at this, we're a joke. We're literally, the French, you would never hear of the biggest manufacturer. You never hear of the biggest manufacturer in France selling out the family jewels and the company goes bust. That's exactly what happened with Rover and BL and all the other companies that went down and got lost. I don't know who owns the Rover name now. That's been lost in translation. It's sad. It should be left, and it should be a very big reminder to every car company that the British cannot run car companies. It's as simple as that. And it cannot be summarised in other way than BMW. BMW bought Rover simply for the R50 and for access to the four-wheel drive platforms that they couldn't and no idea how to make. They took that technology and made all the X series cars, so the X5, X3s, that sort of thing. They're horrible, horrible things. But they took the technology. They took the R50 Mini. They knew, well, the Mini, from what I've been told, there was an R3 bubble car on a test rig. It wasn't an R3 bubble car. I think it was around 96, 97. It was actually a Mini R50 underneath, wrapped in an R3 bubble shell to just make people think it's not anything to do with a Mini. And that car had a K-Series engine in it. The rumours that the K-Series could not fit an R50 are absolutely rubbish. BMW had no intention of using that engine in the R50 because they set up a company with collaboration with Chrysler, not Rover, just Chrysler, in Brazil to make a dreadful Tritec engine. It is a dreadful engine. It's nowhere as good as a K-Series. Cast iron block, 8 valves. It's okay. It's no frills though. It's not a K-Series. And once that engine was ready and up and running, and the R50 Mini was ready to go, they pulled the plug, were selling Rover, and they took everything. They took the best bit. And look how good that Mini has sold. BMW knew how good that car was. Imagine if Rover had kept, if BMW weren't in the picture and Rover had designed that Mini, it would have saved the company. Rover would be here today. But we allowed that to happen slowly. The British government allowing German manufacturers to buy a British company, their closest rival. What did you think was going to happen? Why did people think that BMW were going to help Rover? I mean, look, I'm young enough to look at this and think, how did people get conned to thinking that BMW were going to support a rival? They were there to kill Rover and take the biggest asset, and they bloody did. What did BMW ever give Rover? The 75. Yeah, sort of, but they didn't really like that car, did they? They blasted it on the launch. So when people make the argument, nah, BMW didn't just come for the Mini, they put millions into the company. Yeah, Rover was a bloody huge company. It's a multi-million pound company. Of course they're going to have to put millions in, but how many millions have they made from that car? We should never be allowed to run a car company again, Rover Joe, because we sold ourselves out. It's sad. It really is sad. Let me go to the next one. That's my passionate speech about how blotted and horrible that we've sold all the manufacturing. We now rely on everybody else. There's so many skills in this country that have been lost over time. And I don't think it's not as if we don't have the skills or the ability. I don't know what, we don't value anything. The government doesn't value anything apart from retail, betting shops and charity shops and supermarkets. That's who we value ourselves at, and pubs, drinking culture. That's what we value ourselves in this country. We don't value anything else. It's shocking. And we deserve that. Aztec. There are two people who buy Rolexes, people who appreciate how they are made and look at every small detail, and other people just do it for a fashion sense. Yes. The intricacy. The intricacy is what gets me on that watch. It's really intricate. You know, so, I'm not religious, but somebody actually said to explain the existence of a God. Don't turn off, because this is quite interesting. A watchmaker, what makes a watch? The cogs, the legs, the gears, everything is precisely made. You telling me that the human body wasn't precisely made? Were we designed? The way we work, our fingers, everything, our heart, our brain, we don't understand our brains. We never will. I don't think we're meant to understand this. We are so intricate, we're like a watch. So, like a watch was made by a watchmaker, we were created by a God. Somebody explained that to me before about the watch. I think it's a watch theory. Don't quite buy it, but I understand the context. I'm not religious. I do believe in fate. Tadas, by the way, the People Cells Focus Automatic 2001 with 1.6, hold on. Person Cells Focus Automatic 2001 1.6 with LPG, my country, €1,300. There is another 350 if you're interested. My God, I'd have to get it shipped over here. Wow, blooming heck. Sorry, automatic and 1.6 LPG in the same sentence. Why would you buy an automatic LPG? The purpose is fuel economy, unless it's someone who can't drive a manual license. Tadas, is it a cultural thing? Because in the UK now, we're shifting towards automatics now. I like automatics, but the shift is you drive a manual. Learn to drive a manual, but you've got a choice then. Now, people are learning to drive in automatics. Is it a thing over there where people there was a bit of a choice between automatics and manuals, or is it like you only learn to drive an automatic if you were disabled, i.e., 1 foot or something? You're multitasking. Some people don't have that multitasking element. They can drive an automatic. I know people who can drive an automatic very, very well, but the first time they try and learn in a manual, it's like baby. It's like a baby driving the car. They become a dreadful driver. They forget to indicate. It's all in their head. It's all. I get like that sometimes. I stall manuals quite a bit these days because I'm so used to automatics. I need to get back into that. The KA had an analog clock. Fancy nowadays. There you go. Nice touch that. I'm sure Porsche do them too. I think so. There are quite a few that do. BMW do. What's the best Ford ever made, would you say? Are you asking me? A Ford Focus Mark 1 nut? The best Ford ever made? That's a good question, that is. I've given you the answer already. Very obvious on that one. I'm biased, but if I try and step out of that tent and look outwards, you give me an argument to say that a Ford of there are Fords that are important. I don't think it's the best car. I think it's one of the most important. I think the Cortina was important. The Mark 1 Fiesta was important. The Mark 1 Focus was important. I think all three of them were important. I don't think the Escort was. I don't think the Escort will be classed as important. But then that's different interpretations. I would say there isn't a Ford that was as more important when it came out. It was important they got the Focus right, because I think Ford was starting to look as if they were getting the hang of it, but they hadn't quite chinked everything a little bit. The Mondeo was a better driver's car, but it didn't look it. I don't like them. I think Ford Mark 1, Mark 2 Mondeos don't look particularly great in some respects, unless it's in a particular colour. Red's a good colour for both of them. But driving cars, Mondeos are good cars, but they're not brilliant cars. I don't think anybody would say they're brilliant cars overall. They're good to drive. So, no, you give me an argument. If anybody can give me an argument to say a Focus Mark 1 isn't the greatest and most important Ford ever made. That's my argument. Give me an argument against, and I'll try and answer it in as best as I can. My guess, they are not different to those LPG systems. No, I think they're very similar. I think it's just tweaked to Ford style. Aztec, sorry, I meant engine modifications. Engine modifications are not my ball game. I don't have enough experience. I don't have the know-how. I don't want to mess with these things. It's as simple. And the Sigma is not an engine to mess with. That's it. I don't have enough experience. David, hi. Hello, David. You've joined us. Thank you. I'm so glad you've joined us. I would definitely have a KA again. They drive really well for what they are. The engine from 2003 was quicker and smoother. Yeah, it's a road cam engine. It's basically a Ford Sigma engine, just 8 valves, chain, bit simpler, basic, cheaper to make, made in Brazil. Fine, good car. And difficult to get your hands on now, though. That's the problem. I've seen a few late Mark 1 KAs about. They still kick around a little bit, but not many now. They've gone to dust. I see more Mark 2 Focuses. Still see more Mark 1 Focuses and KAs, and Fiestas of the same age. My dad said it was really fun to drive. That's the only car he ever bought brand new, as he got a discount from Ford. That's fair enough. Was the Ghost the top of the range model? I'm not sure about that one. Pure Evil, I know you caused you pain when you saw my modified 25 of its stolen BRM seats at Pole. Oh my god. But your reason was totally fair. The idea of a BRM being killed for them was a sad one. But the truth is, you weren't responsible for that. You just buyed seats that were being sold. But the problem is that some twit thought, do you know what? I'm going to make money off this car. I think that's wrong. But it's like Mark 1s. Mark 1 focuses, there's a special limited edition called the collection, the Zetec collection, with unique, really good looking bumpers. And there's only about 100 of them left now because people have broken them for the bumpers, because there was a point where Focus Mark 1s, even, it was just an ordinary Focus really, people didn't see them as anything else. They were worth just as much as the car. The car would have been probably worth 500, 400 quid, and the bumpers would have been worth more than that in good condition. So people stripped them, sold the bumpers, and then you've effectively paid for a car there. And then they broke the rest of the car, made about £1,000, then scrapped the body, probably made about 1,500 quid in profit. And this has been going on for a long time. And I think BRM, slightly in a smaller niche, but oh, it's nice. I think that's why that. Do you know what? I would, if I had a 25 with cloth seats and there were BRM seats going for grabs, particularly it works with the colour scheme on your car, I'd do the same. They're so nice. Why not? Gear, sorry. I thought so. I thought you were talking about, yeah, I thought you were talking about that. Yeah, it is. With the gears atop the luxury range, if you wanted an even more you had the RS, which nobody barely bought because it's just expensive. The ST170, right, which was the top spec model, the sports model. Then you had the gear, the luxury model, then the Zetec. So the Zetec is the entry-level sports version. The ST170 is above that. So it's like a zigzag, okay? Actually, forget the RS. So you got the ST170. Well, I'm doing it the wrong way around. So you've got the ST170, okay? Then you've got the Zetec down here. But in between them, on a different level, is the gear. That's the top spec. So you've got two columns. You've got the sports spec, the sports side of things, and then the luxury side of things. So you've got ST170, Zetec. But between them, you've got the gear on the luxury side. And then you've got the LX below the Zetec on the luxury side. Do you understand? So if you want an entry-level luxury car, LX. The LX sometimes has more toys than the Zetec, but the Zetec was more expensive than an LX. The gear has way more toys than the LX and way more toys than the Zetec. Expensive. The ST170 has way more toys and obviously different engine, you know, everything under the bonnet, etc. than a Zetec. Okay. The CL isn't both. The CL is neither sporty nor luxurious. It's poverty spec. It doesn't. It's like in a list of its own. There you go. That's how I can explain it. In the brochure, it's CL, LX, Zetec, gear, ST170. But really, that doesn't explain it very well. I put them in two columns. I'm glad that might explain things to a few people. David, the 1.6 in the street cab was a bit wheezy and felt no quicker than the 1.3. Was that a Sigma? I thought they couldn't fit the Sigma in them. Have I got that wrong? No quicker than the 1.3 because of the extra weight. Mine had the red leather heated seats. Nice one. That's a really nice touch, that. No, the 1.3, that was a Kent engine, wasn't it? Is that a Kent? The Endura engine. Would you mind saying me your Focus in a few years? Go away. Go away. That's not for sale. I'd have to be dead. Someone's going to have to murder me for that, and the car's going to someone. Yeah, it's going to my parents probably. Well, it would have to go. Haven't made a will yet. I'm only 30. That is actually quite alarming, though. It really is alarming, the mess that I could leave. If, you know, it's daunting. But for some godforsaken reason, you know, life is precious. But if something happened to me, my parents would screw, because my parents are not into cars. I've got one car in a garage where I think they know where the garage is, but it could be a lost car. I've got to make sure they know which garage it's in. I've got one car on the driveway in pieces and another car that's complete on the driveway. They are aware that I've bought another car and they think I'm mad. But the mess I might leave behind in my life might be if I did a disappearing act for some godforsaken reason, there's going to be a lot of mess to clear up. So I probably need to make a few adjustments. I'm not planning to leave. It's just I just realised that it's a bit of a mess. I would say so. So I need to leave someone my cars. I have the fellow in mind that I would give my focus to. I have someone in mind. Was the KA Sport the blue oval one? Yes. I never knew the KA made the K to. They didn't. They made the KA. Oh no. I think they got rid of the KA in 2018. The KA Plus it was called. The KA Plus was the third generation, and it was basically a Ford Figo. Started as a Ford Figo in Brazil. But Ford of Europe thought, that's a good car, that is. We need a replacement for the Mark II-K. The Mark II-K is a Fiat 500. It's not a nice car. I don't like them. The Mark III is quite a nice car, I think. I think they did a good job with that Ford of Brazil. And Ford of Europe thought, right, we need that car in Europe. And they stuck, believe it or not, they stuck the old Sigma engine in. The 1.25 Sigma engine, you can buy that up to 2018. The old Sigma in a full K Plus. That makes me want one of them. The last cheap small car that Ford made with a good engine, Ford Ka Plus. Dynamically, not brilliant. I expect that. Nowhere near as good as a Mark II or Mark I especially. But it's an idea. Tadas, automatic now. For me, I prefer manual gearbox. Very fine. Perfect. Not as everyone's taste. You get lazy, but it's a different experience. It's not a better experience. There's no such thing as it's better. Manuals are better than automatics. It's just different. I view automatics as superior to manuals in several different ways, but it's not about how fast they go, or maybe I think some people just like the directness, the control. That's fair enough. I guess you do feel connected to the car more. That is correct. Is it illegal to remove the? Is it illegal to remove the cat on your car? No. No, not at all. Stealing somebody else's cat is illegal. But no, no, not at all. In my country, for example, if you remove the cat, you can fail the MOC. Well, it happens here. You need a cat to pass the emissions, but we have a system in the UK. It's called Give 'em a Drink, and it's where the MOT tester takes an extra 20 quid for a guaranteed MOT pass. It's been done before. Why do you think all these cars that go around with DCATs, how do they pass the MOT? Well, garages open themselves out here because all it takes is a police officer to pull someone over for a DCAT, really loud exhaust, or they're speeding. They notice the DCAT and they look at the details. Right, which garage did you have this done? That garage gets booked for that because the argument is, it depends. You could have decatted it straight after the MOT. The garage could claim that. But it does open the garage up to problems. People know it's done, but it's hush-hush. I know a garage where there's a mechanic who, he does MOTs, is a tester, and he'll take an extra 20 quid to pass you, right? Turn a blind eye. The boss in the office knows absolutely nothing about it. That's quite common, where the MOT testers don't tell their garage boss what they're doing. Some are in on it, some are not. So the MOT, you have to make sure that man is in the office, because if the boss might be a tester himself, probably as well. If the boss gets hand of your car, you're stuffed if you've relied on that guaranteed ticket. Which is why MOTs are not worth the paper they're written on, guys. It is a guide. I went for an MOT with my dad, and there was a kind of stairwell on the floor where the car was, and the MOT hit his head on the splitter. Ow! Oh! Ow. I did something similar the other day with my head, and it wasn't nice. He was certainly not happy. Rover Joe, I'll send you the photos of the rust. Where shall I send them? My email. Sorry, Rover Joe. My email. My channel email's on here. It's usually fixing and tinkering at gmail.com. That's it. Usually fixing and tinkering at gmail.com. Just check for the email address. It's here. Sorry, so I'm looking at it. The email's not in my head. Usually fixing and tinkering at gmail.com. That is my email, guys. Just so you know. You can react live on the live stream. Yep, please send them through. Please, I hope you're still there. Sorry, the conversation has moved on. Liam, hiya, pal. Hello, sir. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to Usually Fixing and Tinkering. I'm glad you can join us for a live stream. I've had a few new people watch this. I have no idea where people are coming from. Are you on the Ford side? Are you on the Rover side? Have you watched some of my British Classic videos? Wherever. Or have I slagged your car off at a car show? Kidding. I don't slag people's cars off unless it's really, really bad and it's distasteful and it's distastefully modified. Each to their own. It's fine. We're all friends. Jaguar Land Rover is not British owned anymore, is it? No, it's Indian. It's been owned by Tata, Indian Tata. Yeah. That company that did a collaboration with Rover, with a Rover City Rover. Yeah, I think we'll forget about that one. I learnt in geography, I thought the teacher was wrong. I learnt that in... yeah. I know. David, love your early Fiesta. A heated windscreen was standard on the 1.4 gear from late 1990. Yes, I'm afraid, David, I do not have one. I did check. Don't have a heated windscreen. That's okay because there's nothing to break. I'm okay with that. I've got electrical issues with the few items that I have. Just stupid things. JLR owns the Rover name. BMW retained the name to basically... No, I don't think JLR own the Rover name. They own the Land Rover side of things. They don't own the Rover name. Trust me, they don't own it. BMW retained the name to basically make sure they wouldn't release a Rover SUV. Ford got first refusal for the name when buying Land Rover and got it. No. No, that's not true. Rover's name is the Land Rover brand. The Land Rover brand became separate. No. The Rover name, I'm not sure who owns it, but I believe it is not owned by the Chinese. That's one for sure. But I don't think so. I do know that BMW, for some stupid reason, own the rights to Triumph, which is quite appropriate. Why have BMW never thought... Triumph was a sports car, sports saloon manufacturer. Isn't that what BMW are? Maybe that's why they won't make it. Maybe it's because the Triumph name is too old. People don't know what they are. It's like Austin. The name Austin is mixed up in all this somewhere. Probably with the Rover name. People do not know what an Austin is now. People under the age of 25 have no idea. I'm lucky enough that I'm into cars to know this sort of stuff. I would say I'm one of the youngest to be into Austins, to know what they are, to be into this sort of stuff. It's a shame because I fear for the future because most people my age don't have a clue. David, like the honey stick style armrests that were unique to the Gear and the XR2i. I don't have. No, I don't have that. That's interesting. The Gear also had textured lower vinyl on the door cards. Mine, as so early, it passed this. Mine's just plastic and material. Tadas, probably someone fitted LPG for sure, not the factory. Everyone goes for manual, but nowadays a lot of cars auto. We became lazy, I guess. That explains that a little bit. How about the GT40? It's an important car. It did, yeah, because it won the Le Mans. It was important, and Ford needed to get back into things in the motorsport side of things. It's a good point that. I mean, it's not really a car, is really, but it's important. Have you watched the Ford versus Ferrari movie? Yes. God, if you haven't watched that movie, where have you been? Great movie, really good movie. Ford put a bloody fortune into that, and they deserved it. You get what you put in. I wouldn't mind giving an argument. Pupil, I can't imagine they made any money off them. I managed to get the seats, a ton of bits, the door handle, tweeters, a load of other leather work for $250. That's really good. That is. That's really good. That's a lot of. Actually, that's a lot all in. That is for all the bits, but it looks genuine because you've had all the bits done, including the door cards. The weight in aluminium parts, they'd have got half a ton for that scrap value alone. Yeah, I would say so. Sorry. A Brown, the Mark 1 Cortina was the car that made Ford's name. Lightweight, stiff chassis for the time and handled well. GT models introduced performance saloons to the masses. That's important because every other Ford before then did not handle like a Cortina and was nowhere near as fun. The Cortina created the new Ford. But the Ford before was not a Ford. It's not a Ford I recognise. I think the Ford that people recognise started with the Cortina. That might mean it's the most important. The only thing I would say is the Cortina Mark 1 started that change of drivers, enjoyable cars that handle well, fun, capable. But it lost its translation through the 70s, 80s. The 70s were still strong for Ford. In the 80s, it got lost. In the 90s, it was in the doldrums, but Ford knew this and were doing something about it. Back end of the 1990s, 1998, Ford Focus Mark 1. Ford Focus Mark 1 picks it up. I'd argue that what you just said is entirely correct, and maybe that's why it's probably the most important Ford. Is it the best? It defined its era. So does the Mark 1. That's a difficult thing to debate, actually. Mark 1 Cortina versus Mark 1 Focus. But the Mark 1 Focus triggered a resurgence of what the Mark 1 Cortina started, but in a much better way. In some respects, it was a reliable car. Cortinas, I don't think it... Most cars weren't that great back in the day, I can imagine. I can only imagine, because I'm not of that time. But from what I hear, it was kind of the norm. They rotted out quite quickly. They were disposable cars. Mark 1 Focuses were not like that. The game had changed, and I think the Cortina was perfect and summarised its period, its time. That period. Mark 1 Focuses summarised its time. Reliability, high competitiveness, higher qualities of production, more competitiveness, especially versus VW. I'd argue that now triggered every other car since the Mark 1 Focus were great handling cars. Fiesta Mark 5, Mondeo Mark 3, Fiesta Mark 6. Actually, sorry, I said Fiesta Mark 6, Mondeo Mark 3, Fiesta Mark 7, Focus Mark 2, Mark 3. I'd argue the Mondeo Mark 4 and 5 were okay. Mark 5 was okay. But then they started losing it a little bit. But I still think for the new Fords today, even the old Fiestas before they've gone out of production, the Focus, they still retain that DNI that the Mark 1 Focus started, that Richard Page-Jones and his team started. Interesting debate, that one. Maybe that's a debate for another day. I'm going to have to shoot through. Lotus saw the potential and turned it into a race car. Yeah, perfect, because they saw it. My parents thought I was mad to buy 2 cars. David, it's been done. My parents can't understand it. That's fine. They don't have to understand it. They just have to respect it and trust that I know what I'm doing. This is an opportunity. You only have one life. Got to do it. You cannot live in regret. And yeah, for those people who've only just started watching the channel, I'm quite a philosopher. Sometimes. Alex, Figo in India, K in Brazil. I'm sure Ford Figo started in Brazil, not India. I might have got that wrong, maybe. Maybe I was thinking of Brazil for some other different reason, but it was one or two. That's interesting. They still have Mark 1 doors. I didn't know about that. I'm sure the Lotus founders said to take the weight off to make it faster before adding a bigger engine. Yeah, they shaved a lot of weight off. It sounded better in my head. No, it is a better sounding engine. They did a lot of work to the Crossflow engine. I quite like the KA Plus. The last ones were in 2019 on a 69 plate. They would have been very late registered. Production stopped in 2018, but they would have been very late registered. I would argue if you want a usable, cheap, very much depreciated small car now, I think a late KA Plus with a Ford Sigma engine is right up your street. I'm going to do some Googling later. Can't afford one though. Got 3 cars. Got 3 aging relics. That wheel trim behind you looks in good condition. This one is the best one. This is for another episode. The backside has been, this was black. 3 of them are like that. One of them has got a scratch right there. That's it. I have seen one in for braking, and I'm going to ask him, can you take the best one off and put it in the post? I'll pay for that. There's a window reg. I'm searching for a window reg. But that was black. Do you know how I spent yesterday a lot of cleaning? That was dreadful. Really bad. Out of all your cars, which one would you be most confident on taking on a track on the Autobahn? Oh my God. None of them. I think if the CVT gearbox in Beatrix didn't have a reputation for frailty in certain respects, that would be the best car, because the CVT gearboxes, if any of you have watched that video I've recently done on the history of CVT cars, Formula 1 racing cars were going to have that gearbox until the FIA decided they were too boring and drony for a spectator sport, but they were quicker. The CVT Formula 1 racing car, Williams, that was quicker than the manual version, driven by David Coulthard. The reason being a CVT is always in the right ratio at the right time going around the corners. Whereas a manual gearbox, you're dropping down, you're losing that time in the gears. Well, it'd be like this on Formula 1, obviously. But that's why I would want to take that performance-wise. The Focus Mark 1's dreadful. It's like an asthmatic tank with all. I'd have a manual Focus for that. I just have to get a manual Focus or a manual 45 1.8. Not an automatic. But the CVT is very well suited in the Rover 45 for that. I think it would be the one I take, but my God, I'm taking a risk there. Gearboxes and all that. I'd have to take a spare gearbox just in case things go wrong. I would as well, because you're going that far. Probably take a spare car as well, just in case to come back in. Austin Healy. What was that? I didn't really catch that. I've sent them now. Okay. Flipping heck. There's nothing left of it. That's really bad. That's really bad, that is. It's gone in the footwell area. Excuse me. Tiredness is creeping in. 2 hours 44. Blow me neck on this. I'm just studying these pictures. So the sill is completely rotten at the bottom, but it hasn't gone through to the inner sill. I've never seen one that bad. That's been parked up in grass for many, many years. Thank you for showing me that. For those of you who may be wondering what I'm staring at, I've not seen one this bad. That's really bad. This one's even worse. That's from the inside. There's just nothing. There's no sill at all. And that's the footwear. This is where they go on 45s, if you don't know. That's at the front. I hope you can see that. Maybe. That's where your feet are. That is where your feet go from the driver's perspective. Passenger side goes the same way. I complained. I saw the last episode I did. I pointed this out. There are 3 pieces of metal that overlap. It's the reason they rot is because the drainage that Honda designed was so shockingly poor. I actually think you should take, there's 2 little bungs there, isn't it? Circular bungs. I think you should take them out. I don't think, yeah, water will go in, but it will come back out. I think you should leave them out because there's always water dripping from them. Why are they there? I don't know. They should be there. I've seen people get these 45 welded in the footwell area, and they don't bother to cut the circles out for the plugs because they just stick a plate on. Well, where's the drainage? It's going to rot out. You've got to have those drainage holes. I don't understand that. I need to get this on because the blooming comments are coming in. I've been rabbiting on. Alex says, per Wikipedia, BMW sold the rights to the Rover Mark to Ford in 2006 for approximately 6 million. Oh, don't go by Wikipedia, please. As soon as someone mentions that, it's worse than the Haynes Book of Lies. Sold the rights to Rover to Ford for approximately 6 million. The latter exercised an option to refusal to buy it. I'm going to do some research, but I don't think that's where the name went. I was speaking to someone who knows his Rovers inside out. We were discussing several things, including John Towers. John Towers was an enthusiast of the brand. A lot of bad things are said about him, but I think he loved the Rovers more than you think. I'm not going to say anything more because I'm privy to information that is quite private, and it's not information that should get out. For John Towers' sake, put it that way. But yeah, there's a lot of things that he knows that I didn't know, and the Rover name is not one of them that he knows about. Do some digging. The only reason I know it was because it was in the front door. I see. Alex, in March 2008, Ford reached an agreement with Tata of India to include the Rover name as part of the sale of the Jaguar Land Rover operations to them. Legally, the Rover mark is the property of Land Rover, or under the terms of Ford purchase of the name. I don't think they can reuse it. I'm not so sure about that. Aztec, I'll see. I'll have a look. How about the Escort Cosworth? Nah, because I wouldn't. None of the Cosworths are great cars. They're not. They are good. They're great cars in some respects, but they're not important cars. What makes these cars important? I don't. If these cars didn't exist, I think there'd be some element of change in the company if they hadn't been made. But they're not important. They're just too niche. Do you know what the Lotus Carlton was? I do, but I'm not familiar with Vauxhall's or their Lotus equivalents. There was also a documentary about it. Maybe I should watch that. It was the same 0 to 60 as the newest Ferrari, Lamborghini and BMW at the time. Quite interesting. That's quite quick. A short summary. Thieves stole one and committed lots of robberies in the UK. Yeah, well, yeah. And so it was so fat the coppers couldn't catch them. That's usual. I'm just trying to get through. They robbed a store opposite a police station. That was very brave of them. Very, very brave of them. Tell us, the Focus was 1998 and the Puma was 97. And it does look a bit like this new Edge design. And it was Top Gear Car of the Year and the Puma was handling good too. That's correct. The new Edge design started before the Focus, but it was only a small tweak. I think the Focus was the first car to wear the Edge design in full frock. Because the Puma was constrained to a Fiesta platform. The Focus was an all-new platform. Everything. The full fat. There was no compromise with the Mark 1. Would you say the Puma Racing was a flop? No. Good cars. I don't think anybody will say any Puma, let alone a racing, is a flop. Fun cars. Get one while you can because they're all rusty. If you find a good one, you need to stick with it. My God, Pumas are going to be very, very tasteful cars in the future. Bad, really bad. So, yeah, Rover Joe, I've fabricated a whole new seal out of 1.6mm steel. I am going to ask a few questions about welding because I need to know what sort of steel that I need to use if I'm to embark on welding. Not on this car that I've just bought, but just saying that's a big job. Well done. You're braver than me, and I've barely started. I'm practicing. Practice makes perfect. You've done well. It's in 3 pieces, and the sill is made of 3 pieces. One at the back, long bit in the middle, and the front bit is part of the wheel arch and the jacking point outrigger. Yeah, I've noticed that actually where it goes in a little bit. Tricky. You've done well there. Aztec, if only rust didn't exist, so many cars would be around today. Sure. That's a good question. A hypothetical question. If rust didn't exist, I actually had a similar conversation the other day. If rust didn't exist, what classic, and there were more, and basically, if rust didn't exist, and you have every single classic car going under the sun, which one would you buy? You could only have one, but which would you buy? I'd have a very, very early Mini. Very early, a 1959 Mini. Mini 7 or Mice Mini Minor. I want to find out what they're like. Because they detonated badly. Was the CVT available throughout Mark III production? Correct. Completely. It was available for Mark IV production. Now, somebody said to me in the comments that the CVT was dropped because it was so bad. That wasn't the case. I'm pretty damn certain that CVT box continued in production through Mark III life. For the Mark IV, there was a launch video I watched, and that gearbox was just slightly tweaked. There was a bit of strengthening in the clutch packs, etc., something like that. But it was the same gearbox in the Mark IV Fiesta. I believe the Mark V may have had it, although they're quite rare in the Mark V, if they are, because I don't think I've seen one. But I'm sure they kept that gearbox going to 2002, because then obviously the Mark VI came out in 2002, and the Mark VI has the Mazda 4-speed automatic that my Mark I has, and they're good gearboxes. So strangely, for a gearbox that is inherently infamously bad, why did Ford keep it for so long? 13 years is a long time. Sure, if it was that bad, look at the power shift. The power shift lasted 7 years before they ditched it because of the claims they had on that gearbox. Awful gearbox. That's a worse gearbox than this CVT, I tell you. Rover Joe, I'm going to be filming the welding and process of restoration, so you might find it interesting. I'll be watching, guaranteed. I am a subscriber, so it should ping on my screen. I am time limited, so when I am chilly, I'm eating my dinner, I'll flick the YouTube on and I'll watch other people. So I'll be watching. I do need to learn that. I can't do a video on welding because my channel is about giving people confidence and teaching people about skills. Can't teach people skills if I've not learnt it myself. I can show you my baby steps of learning. Need to get a welder though. I'm borrowing somebody else's welder and practicing on some cheap wings at the moment. And that's not good, is it? Because welding on thin steel like wings, it just distorts the metal. At the moment, I'm getting down the stage of blowing through metal and then splattering the weld. I'm trying to find the middle ground. You know what I mean? I need to get a welder though, and they're not cheap. I'd like to get a decent one, maybe a Clark, something that I know is going to work. Gas, not gasless. Gasless is crap. You know. Sorry, I've lost it. Puma, looking forward to watching that. So am I, yeah. Andrew, I used to have a 1.7 Puma, not the racing one, but the standard 123 brake horsepower. Was great. I can remember why I parted with it. Must have been an MOT. Massive failure 8 years ago. They weren't worth much back then. It's a shame. They're worth a bit more now. I know many of them have been broken because Focus Mark 1 people put the 1.7 inlet manifolds on their 1.6s. Get a few horses. The Puma was flipping go-kart to drive, while the best Fords, pain to see the name used on your average overpriced bloated compact crossover. Do you know what? This Ford, because this company here that made this brilliant car, I mean, they're not, Fiesta Mark 3s are not brilliant cars actually, as a car. They're quite conventional. I think Metros were better. But a lot of people learned to drive in these. A lot of people use them as go-rounds. They were cheap, they were fun, they were disposable. People had a lot of fun in these. And the memories and nostalgia is important. And that everyday man feel is so important. This company, it's not this. This company is the real Ford. The company that calls themselves Ford now, they're not Ford. They keep going on about heritage, about moving on from the past and making cars that Ford owners will be proud to own, i.e. what we've been producing since about up to 2016. Rubbish. We don't like them. But why then are you using old names like Puma? Puma, you want to do it with the Capri? You want to rubbish another name? Why are you doing that? If you want to create a new company and move on from the old Ford, why are you using old names for? That's really one-eyed, that is. That's basically, well, we'll cherry pick the bits we want to say, but we'll tell people that we're moving on. Disgraceful company. It's a shame because I really am passionate about Fords as much as I'm passionate about Rover. I'd never get a job with Ford because I think the company is ran like a pile of dog poo now. The people that work in the factories are brilliant people. I hear great stuff, especially up at Halewood. Great things are happening with the EV platforms and it's exciting. It's jobs. It's important. But I'm concerned about the way the company's being driven upstairs. There's something wrong in their heads. Ford is no longer an everyday man's brand. Henry Ford, oh my God, Henry Ford II, they're turning their graves. Really, honestly. I'd love to ask that question. I'd love to get the chief executive of Ford and ask him, what would Henry Ford think about where the company direction is going? What is the answer to that question? How do you think he would feel? That's a good question. don't think he'd give me an interview because he wouldn't have an answer for that. That would be a very good answer. If the Cosworth wasn't made, I don't think there'd be an RS brand today. Correct. The RS brand is important. The motor side is important. It's always sold Fords. I understand that. But it's not as important as other bits of the company. The everyday stuff. But I understand that. I think it revised the RS. They did something. I sent more photos. You'll be surprised. So that's a piece of steel, that is. This is... That's a complex thing to do. I'm sorry if you can't see that. That's some complex... I see what you mean by 3 pieces. Is this Honda sitting on your driveway floor? Oh my goodness me. You know what? That's something else, that is. I give you a lot of credit for that. That is a different level. I can't do that. I can't realistically do that. I have to be careful what I can and can't do sometimes. The Fiesta Mark IV from late 2005 had the car-pitch wheel arch liners. These liners are a blessing and a curse. They always are. They always are. And no, I love the fact that that has no arch liners, because the 45 being a post-project drive facelift, there are no arch liners, no rear arch liners on that car. Focus Mark 1, throw them in the bin years ago. Fiesta Mark 3, no arch liners. You get the theme here. Every single one of my cars has no arch liners. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. I don't believe in rear arch liners. I believe in actually seeing everything. And if there's a bit of rust coming through, you deal with it. If you can't see that rust because there's an arch line in the way, you think, oh, it's nice and clean. Oh, behind it, it's not very clean. It's rusty. I don't like it. I really don't like it. Puma, like the Cougar, you nailed it. I've got to say, I remember the Puma advert on launch, and this is when Ford were brilliant at marketing. I mean, Ford have always been good at marketing. I think there was a good advert. There was a really famous advert. It's on YouTube. And it was basically, there was a song sung by Brian May. What a fantastic advert. Just advertising the whole company, the whole range. I can't remember. I think Driven by You. I think that's the name. Great advert. The advert for the Puma, Steve McQueen, they got permission of Steve McQueen's family to use cutouts of basically, presumably, I think The Great Escape, possibly, or many other films, and to use his image in the advert. Watch the advert. Ford Puma advert, Steve McQueen. One of the coolest actors back in the day. I think you couldn't get cooler. And I've got a Harrington's jacket. Harrington's jacket, worn by Steve McQueen, became a fashion accessory. One of those stars, like I think Michael Caine. It's just stardom, ultimately. And to do that was just brilliant. Utterly brilliant. If you had your Focus wrapped, would you get on with it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Daniel, hi Andrew, how are you? I'm okay. How are you, Daniel? Nice to see you. I just watched your new video on your latest purchase. It brought back memories for me. I had a G-Reg Maritime Blue Mark III Fiesta Poverty Spec Popular. Not even a door mirror on them. My God, hold on a second. I'm just trying to figure out that colour. I am sort of getting used to the whole thing. Oh, colours. Where's the colours? It's right at the back. Okay, right. I've got to say, Maritime Blue, I prefer Matisse Blue. I think that's the nicest colour on a Fiesta, Matisse Blue. Although Diamond White is nice. I'm really good, just really busy. I've had this car a couple of weeks now. I did an introduction video a couple of days ago. Well, 4 days ago now. I've got stuck into the car. She's an absolute gem of a car. It's a very early 89 reg, very very early. I think there's only 7 Fiestas that are earlier. I believe the earliest surviving Mark III is owned by a chap who runs the channel Morsels and Motors. That is a popular as well. He bought it, only had 2 door mirrors on it, and he said, that's not good. I'll get a blank and remove the door mirror and have it reverted to factory spec. Brilliant. Love that. Love it. I'm glad it's brought back memories for you. I mean, to be fair, it's Capri's for you. And to be fair, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who would want to be in your shoes. When you're in the Capri Club now, it's a good thing because you're in the club. But if you're not in the club, trying to buy a Capri now is financially difficult. It's a shame, but it's a good thing because they're looked after. And most Capris I see are extremely well kept, like yours. I still sitting in yours is just 2 litre S, superb with the fishnets. And this Fiesta smells like yours, by the way. It's got all the 80s smells to it, the foam fabric and everything. It's just brilliant. Love it. I wouldn't say it hits the nostalgia buttons because I said to someone before, it was either this or a Rover Metro or Austin Metro, probably a Rover one, because my family are into Metros, have had Metros. None of my family have had Mark III Fiestas, so this is a new thing for me, but I still find it nostalgic because they were around when I was a kid. So I still find I have a really nice connection with this car, despite not having one. I'm glad it's reached you. I mean, to be fair, I knew you'd subscribed. I am going to promote the video further afield to the Mark III community, because there's nothing much on Mark III's. Being a CTX, it's quite interesting because the only video that I can find on YouTube of the CTX was when they launched it in the Mark II Fiesta. Anyway, Aztec, would you get a rally livery or just... Oh, no. Don't talk about that. No. No. PowerShift is known by many as power shite. I'd like to drive one that actually works properly. Rover Joe, I bought a welder this week, a Parweld XT171C. It's meant to be really good for automotive use. How much did it cost by any chance? Is that okay if I ask you that? Just consciously. Aztec, I've heard aluminium is hard to weld. Oh, it's a pain to weld. Better to weld steel. Is power shift when you don't take your foot off the gas when you change gears? No, it's an automatic. Power shift is a 6-speed manual gearbox with an automatic adjusting clutch. The clutch, there's 2 clutches. So you've got 2 lay shafts. Manual gearbox, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In this gearbox, you've got 2 shafts. 1, 3 and 5, 2, 4 and 6. You've got 2 clutches. Both of them are controlled by the ECU by a solenoid motor. Okay. The clutches are either dry or wet. If it's a 1.6 in the Sigma engine, the old TIVCT Sigma, it's a dry clutch. If it's in the 2-litre diesels, it's a wet clutch. There's a bit of a debate which one's more reliable. Personally, the wet clutches survive better than the dry. Basically, when you go through the gears, the computer is pre-selecting. It's like a pre-selecting gearbox. So basically, the clutch will be engaged on gear number 1 as you set off. because the ECU knows that you're driving in first gear, it prepares second gear. So the second clutch pushes it. Basically, there's an attachment that pushes the rod, the actual synchromesh, onto second gear. As soon as it's time for second gear, switch. Instant. First, second, third, fourth. Do you know what? I've only seen one work perfectly once without problems. They really are problematic. The computers are dreadful, and the gearboxes are just they're not set up very well. There's a lot of failures. The problem is with PowerShift automatics is they're not automatics, they're manuals. So essentially, you're in second gear, again, computer, select third, bang. It's fine upshifting. Downshifting is a bit of a problem with automatics because they don't know what gear to shift to. Because if you're driving in fifth gear and then you suddenly sharply brake, the gearbox is going to think, well, hold on, we don't need fourth. Do we need third? No, we need second. It doesn't know what it's doing. That's where automatics are rubbish. Downshifting. Upshifting's fine. Downshifting is a bit of guesswork because you don't know what you're downshifting to. The other problem is because they're automatics, people treat them like automatics. They can creep, but you're not supposed to. In traffic, if you're sort of in a line of traffic and you're trying to creep forwards, in an automatic, you'll just creep forwards and just move up and bunch up. Don't do that in a PowerShift. If you do that, you're going to burn the clutches out. The clutches are not designed to creep forwards and backwards. You're supposed to drive it like a manual. When you're stopped, you stop, unless you have to move forward a significant distance. Got to leave. See you on the next live stream. Alex, I'm going to kick this into touch very soon. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you soon. Mini series. Hi everyone, just stumbled across this live. Darn, I must have set notifications on these. Subscribed a couple of days ago, having found a card under my wipers. I know. I'm sorry. I think I didn't respond to a comment. I've been trying to trying to catch up with my comments recently because I've got emails, I've got comments, I'm making videos, I'm repairing cars. It's all over the place. My flat's a mess. My life is a mess. Trust me. So bear with. I'm glad you can join us. Daniel, your F-Reg Fiesta Mark III is very early and ultra rare. When you get a chance, watch the 10-minute 1989 Mark III Ford promotional video. Oh, I need to watch that. Thank you very much. I will go and watch that after this live stream. Yes, F-Regs are rare. They're only made, we're talking April the 15th is when they were launched. My car is a May the 16th, by the way. That's a month. And I know there are 6 Fiestas that are older than mine that exist. 3 of them are not in good condition. I'm pretty certain it's the earliest automatic. I'm pretty sure it is. And it's the earliest gear that survives. I've also got, if you watch the video, Daniel, I've got the joystick. That's very rare. I think they got rid of it on a G-Reg and before blank. I've got that. It works perfectly fine. All the balancing things. Fantastic. I love it. Andrew Walsh. The modern Puma now looks like an overgrown SUV. Everything else on the road, nothing like in the past. So, yeah, I know. It was like, yeah. The original, the proper Puma is a go-kart. That's not a Puma. That's a Puka. I'll call it the Puka. Don't mention SUVs. Oh no. Now this is the thing, actually. I was going to say this as a joke. There is a channel, a very nice channel that I'm subscribed to. Very few channels I'm subscribed to these days because of time. His name is Joseph Lloyd. Joseph Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. That's his channel. And he does a thing. He doesn't talk about diesels. I might start a thing where I don't talk about SUVs because I don't want to talk about them. I've moaned about them and rambled about them enough on my channel. Actually, I feel quite annoyed about talking about them. So, no SUVs on this channel. We do not talk about SUVs. And we don't, We might talk about electric cars because, you know, electric cars are actually exciting in some ways. I don't entirely agree with the agenda. You should have a choice. So I'm just saying, electric cars are fine. SUVs are not fine. Just saying. Can we have electric cars that don't look like SUVs is what I'm going to ask. I'm trying to get through the comments here. Oh my God. I can't get through the comments. God, that's free. Right, guys, don't put any more comments because I'm struggling to get through and I need to end this in about 15-20 minutes. I'm just saying. I'll just get through. Oh my God. Right, David, Ford are changing dramatically. Everything we are now, and love is disappearing. It is, I'm afraid so. What car enthusiasts are supposed to get in 34 years' time? I don't know. That's a good question. I'll leave that for another live stream. It is a problem. I don't think people, there's not many people under the age of 30 that are into cars, so it's a big problem. Who is going to own Daniel's Capri? Because this is the thing. I am the custodian of this Fiesta and that 45 and my Focus. If I want them to last, Daniel, you are the custodian of your Capri. We're only the custodians. We're not owners. Who is going to own these cars in the future? I do worry about this. We spend shitloads of money on these cars and look after them to a T so we can enjoy them, but also to benefit the person down the line. That's important with this Fiesta. I'm going to do a lot of work on this car to look after it, to improve it, to make it better than what it was before, to put my stamp on it and to say, this was my car and I looked after it and I made it better. But that's to help me have fun. I want to have fun in this car. I want to drive it. I want to experience it. But it's also going to help the next owner, the next custodian. Older cars can dwindle and lose their numbers. I'm afraid it will happen. Mini scene, I had the car pity arch liners on the back of my Streety. You can't clean it properly. You never can. I hate them. I'll throw them in the bin. Aztec, who wants an electric Mustang as a classic car? Empty room there. True arch liners cover many sins. They always do on everything. Daniel Wall, Driven. Can't remember, what was that about? Oh, sorry. Everything we do is driven by you. Thank you. What a good advert. Why don't they make adverts like that anymore? Ford haven't done that for 15 years maybe. It's every advert now, it's lifestyle. Every manufacturer got to sell a lifestyle. It's materialistic and it's so cut off from the reality of the everyday man. It's utterly true. Everything we do is driven by you. That is so far apart from where Ford are now. You couldn't paint a picture. Everything they do is driven by, and I argue if you run a car company well, this will be created. You make the right cars at the right time. This is created. Everyone's happy. Why can't we go back to that? It's 2 a.m, so I think it's a good idea to go to sleep. Good night, sir. I'll see you soon, Tanas. I'll probably do a live stream. I'll probably do a live stream next weekend. Yeah? Don't know if it'll be Friday. I'll see. Mini scenes, as a friend of mine has a Match E, I have to say it's impressive and a lot faster than a proper Mustang, but it's just, well, in the words of Jeremy Clarkson, some car. Yes. Can understand that. I would like to think in 30-40 years time what cars will look like. They will have no character for sure. That's a dreary thought. The Rover 25 has arch liners and they hide so much rot. I didn't know that. Early 45s and Civics have a lip protector on the back and a small liner to cover the fuel filler neck. Yes, some people retrofit them to the later ones. I don't know why, but I think later Rovers didn't have it. Mine doesn't. They stopped doing it in 2003, Project Drive. I love Metros. So do I. It's just this came around at the right time. Well, at this time. Matisse Blue is metallic, and I agree, it does look better than Maritime Blue. Maritime Blue, it's a solid colour, isn't it? Because it's popular. Of course it is. Sorry. Yeah, Matisse Blue is maybe we will have flying cars. Electric is semi-cool. I don't think it's the way forward. No. I'm sure Porsche is trying to make synthetic fuel. Yeah, the problem is, I'm going to talk about that. There was a video, I think Harry's Garage, if anybody watches Harry's Garage, he's brilliant. Some of his videos are really good, and he's looked into a lot of this. And he did an interview with the biggest company that makes synthetic fuels. Apparently, this company can blend fuels for a particular country, altitude, event, to prevent all sorts of wear and perfect the performance. On the question of everyday cars, no, it's not for passenger cars. It's all about for Formula One cars, racing cars, high end, high value. That you and me don't count because it's not enough money. It's a shame. It's a sham that it's not being talked about, because synthetic fuels, it needs to be pushed with classic cars. Oh, another area to look out for on a 45. Check your inner front wings. Hold on, your inner front wings and the windscreen scuttle panel under the wipers. They rot. You're making me think. No, mine's okay, because I had all of the scuttle out to clean it all up, and I did sort of look up. I always do that anyway. You need to know your car, and you need to look up. No rot whatsoever. And the inner front wings, no, nothing. There's nothing on mine. You can watch the videos. There's absolutely nothing. There's the tiniest bit of surface rust on the front footwells on both sides, and we're talking dirty surface rust. We're not even talking about bad stuff. I don't think you'll find a 45 as clean as mine. I don't think so. Bodywork wise, paintwork could be better, but not. The welder cost me $479. It was on offer. They're usually $600. Oh, my budget is a bit less than that. I was looking at $350 for Clark welder, so maybe I'll stick with that. But they're probably very good then for that price. Depends how much welding you're going to do. I'm not banking on welding a lot of cars, because my idea is to prevent the stuff from happening. Mini Scenes question. I know you visited the British Motor Museum last weekend. What was your favourite car there? I worked there part-time since I retired early. You put a card under the wipers of my windscreen. Favourite car? That's a difficult one, that is. I'm a sucker for Rover P6s, and I love the fact that there was an early P6 in the entranceway, not far from the reception desk. I like that. I like the fact that you have all the gas turbine cars available. So yeah, I would definitely say so. I'm biased, but there was a lot of nice cars I saw there. Some electric acceleration is insane. It is instant. 1.9 seconds. That's ridiculous. I'm just going to skip through a few. The footwell in the Metro is very cramped. I used to get cramped in my right foot in the Rover 100. The 1.1 was a lovely, sweet engine. I would like a Rover Metro because of the K series. I have full confidence in that engine. I really think they are one of the best engines ever made. You talk about top 10 engines ever made that never get discussed because of the head gasket issue. K series. I'm fully converted with the K series. Fully converted. I actually champion that engine as one of the best engines ever made. Ever. If they had got that head gasket correct, it would be. That's the saddest, most frustrating truth of it. That's okay, because the people that keep kicking them well, you're missing out. You are missing out. I have invited a few people to drive my 45. with that box and with that engine in full tune, and you'll find out how good the gearbox is and how good an engine the K series is in 1.8 tune. Can't beat a V8. No, not at all. I love the 302. Best noise I've heard lately was the XJ13 that makes a sound shake. That's a nice car. David, my works Transit are having problems. A few have been replaced already, a few years old. That's not good. That's not good. Mini scenes, where did you see one? I know how it is. I have all cars all over the place in various states of work and a YouTube channel, and all the cars at the museum to dust too. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Love it. I'll have to watch your channel. Andrew Walsh, I will watch it because I need to get around to other channels. Electric motors have a high intense torque. That's true. It's instant torque. My argument, you want to experience an electric car without driving an electric car, drive a CVT. The CVT gives you that same experience, but not instant acceleration, but the same kind of acceleration. I do argue CVTs are way ahead of their time, too much ahead of their time, because everybody drives cars with seamless 8-speed automatic gearboxes where you can't hear any of the ratio changes because they're so close together. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Joseph calls it forbidden fuel. Oh, it is. I'm fine with SUVs as long as there's a reason for them. My niece has a Range Rover Sport. She has several dogs. That's a nice dog car. It's those who are just driving with one person in for no reason. That is a problem. Yeah, I can understand that. Well, I know someone who's got a Range Rover Sport, and they've got 2 German Shepherds. Goodness me. Ex-police dogs. They know how to behave. You do not want to mess around with them. Mind you, I will say the car's covered in fur. Honest to God, I can't. German Shepherds are lovely dogs, but my God, I couldn't stand the fur shedding. It sets me off badly. I do think I've got an allergy of such. There are people who need them. Look at the mini scene. Loads of youngsters in the classic mini scene. I'm surprised by that, because my argument with the classic mini scene is minis are very expensive to get into in the first place. So young people need a bit of a financial if the parents are willing to say, yeah, here's a few £1,000s, go and get a mini. If you don't have that ladder, you can't get into the mini scene. Mini scene is quite expensive these days, which is why I've not gone into it. I just think there are so many cars these days that you can buy for less money and have more fun than a mini. Getting into minis, you should have done that 10, 20 years ago. Obviously people went, if you only have an age, you can't help that. But the time to buy a mini was 90s, noughties when they were cheap. And now they're worth a fortune. The video that I've just done with the Mini Traveller, that is a typical example. Martin bought that car when it was worth very little. And now it's worth a fortune. That's a 15 grand car, that is. I might be able to drive it. If Martin's feeling generous. I can always send my Caprice to a museum if needed. Good idea. That's a very good idea. That means we need some more museums, because my Focus Mark 1 will be going straight there, and hopefully that Fiesta, maybe. We need more museums. We need places that are like a farm that someone builds a huge, like a museum, but a collection centre. Someone where you can send your car. If you can't find someone to send your car to, and you'd rather it, at the end of the day, if nobody wants these cars, someone's got to keep them for someone to look at in the future. I'd rather it exist as a museum exhibit than get trashed by someone in the future who doesn't know what it's worth. Well, I don't know. I have no idea. Dangerous idea, that is. It's a bit worrying, isn't it? When you must be something when you get to a certain age and you're thinking, I've got some nice cars, I either need to get rid of them now, or I need to put plans in place so that I know the car could go to somebody that I know will look after it. That's it. Some people don't have that person in their lives. I'm lucky that I do know a few people who would take some of my cars on and look after it. Oh God, Fiat 500 is the biggest car. That's pushing the boat. That is. I think of cars of today will be thought in the future, like 20 years. Yeah, classics are not like today. Cars from the 70s, 80s, 90s are what we appreciate. Exactly. I argue 70s stuff is going a bit of the way of the wind a little bit. I think 80s, 90s stuff is the peak stuff now. That's where the interest is. Fair point. Like Fiestas, had three as company cars, an SI, nice. Two titaniums, way better than my colleague's BMW. That's good. Best Ford advert is everything we do, driven by you, with the racing driver whose name I'd forget to drive the Escort Cosworth. Yeah, perfect. I'm very agreed there. Yeah, yeah. Aztec, they should have advertised the Pinto as a flamethrower, maybe. Mine is a 33 EJB. Not sure what that is. I've lost that. The P6, they were there because we had the P6 Owners Club in the day before. Are you joking? Oh my God, I missed them then. That might have been a decent day for me to turn up. Nice. Okay, so they get moved around very quickly then at the front. I thought so. It's much appreciated. I try my best. Oh, it's superb, your car. Unbelievable. Glad to see you giving Todd to older cars. Sorry, my spell check is awful. My channel is about crafts. Oh, is it? Oh, sorry. Yes, I've seen it. Is my God, that's a bit of a different one to what you to your other interests. Let me know next time you're down the museum. I'll buy you lunch, show you around properly. Least I can do is to support a fellow YouTuber. I'll take you up on that, guaranteed. Properly, without my live stream cutting out. I don't know how good you are in front of the camera. Would you be on camera? I'm offering it there. You don't have to be. Talking of Fiestas, I quite fancy a Mark 1 XR2. I might get one as my next project, perhaps in the near future. I've been told, Daniel, that Mark 2 Fiestas are going through the roof now. Mark 1 Fiestas are a little bit beyond my reach now. Mark 2 Fiestas, they are getting up. They are going up. I still saw a post the other day on a classic car Facebook group where people were slagging off a Mark II Fiesta that looked like it was still owned by someone who didn't really care much about it or didn't know what it was, just an old banger. And people kept absolutely rubbishing it, like it's scrap, it's junk. That's what that car is. I couldn't believe the lack of respect towards them. Were they really that bad, Mark Fiestas, that people still think that? And some people said, oh, it's not a classic. What do you mean it's not a classic? Classics didn't cut off in 1970 or 19 I'm not being funny. A Mark II Fiesta now, the earliest ones, they're exempt. They're MOT and tax exempt. That's how classic they are now. That Ruby out there has got 6 years until it's exempt. Not far off. Thankfully, my niece's dogs don't molt. Okay. I know the dogs. Okay, they're nice. They are. Mini scenes. Seriously, classic minis and older minis, early gen ones. Loads of youngsters. That's good to know. That's really good to know. I'm pleased about that. The Mini will survive because of that. It's always a car that attracts the young. Got my Cooper 35 and Rover Mini Cabrio in the 90s. Yes, nice cars. Nice additions. Do you remember the Focus Mark 1 anniversary meet last year? I didn't see that because I was only a small-time YouTuber. If I was working, I don't get much chance to tour around the cars, sadly. Ah, no, that I know. I mean, working there, you're cleaning, more or less, I presume. Uh, must be a bit weird to be in such a nice place, a working environment, but not have enough time to enjoy everything because you're just working. That's a weird one for me. Wasn't it part of the Ford Nationals? It might have been. Clubs book the museum for all sorts of club mates. Well, the thing is, I've got a thing. I'm trying to build a Mark One club at the moment, a group. We have about 400 members in a preservation group, people who like to keep Mark 1 focuses nice. There's a lot of enthusiasm, but it's getting people to come out. And Gaydon is a place I would like to book a meet day, but I need to know about the ins and outs. I haven't contacted anyone at the museum yet because at the moment I want to see more commitment from people in their Mark 1s to get out to a show and actually meet people, because it's all good saying I'll meet you and then they don't turn up. I need commitment, and if I'm going to want to book a place like this because I think we could get 50 people to turn up to a Mark 1 focus meetup at Gaydon, well, that's possible, but we're looking at 50 at the moment, and I don't think that's enough. Although that's a good number, I'll tell you. So I'll leave that there. It's in the meat. Oh yeah, okay, I know the ones. Oh, 621 AOK has been everywhere. It's where the old petrol heads go to it out. I love it there. I do some book weekends so I can just join in with the shows. Lovely. That's great. That is. I love that. Rover Joe, if I was to get a Ford Focus, I'd get one of the Millennium ones. Correct. Well done. It's the rarest Mark 1. It's a good look in some respects. There's 51 of them. That's it. So you're going to have to get one now. That's my... and they're still going down in numbers. But I would agree. They are rubbished for the colour, but now they look amazing. That Millennium Focus. People know what that car is, even though they don't know much about Fords of this age. I had somebody pass, and he said he's more into Rovers. He doesn't know much about Fords, but he turned around and he said, "Look, there's a Focus Millennium there. How did you know that was a Focus Millennium if you're not into Fords?" It's that colour. It's just one of those unique cars that stand out a mile now. I'd be tempted to get one. Good on you. Glad to see you're enjoying your job. Very easy to organise a meet. Ring the bookings team for a chat. Club meets are easy to sort. Thank you. It might not happen next year. It might be smaller meetups next year because I want to see people come out. Because I know there's I think there's about 30, 40 people who've expressed an interest. And we're all scattered all over the place. And Gaydon's quite central. But I need somewhere smaller where I think, right, let's book somewhere smaller. Let's try and get people in, set it as a proper meet, see who turns up, and then if I see enough commitment, I'll be ringing Gaydon. But I'm not sure how much advance notice they need because they need to book things in. And I suspect weekends are quite popular with car clubs. So I need to know how much notice is needed. Or an S-Reg Focus. Rover Joe? Perfect. There's 3 Focuses I'd go for. 4. Not an ST170. Just forget them. Not because they're rubbish, just the cooking models, the everyday models. An S-Reg Focus, a Ford Focus Zetec collection with its unique bumpers. There's about 120 of them left. Get them while they're quick, when they're around. Millennium Focus and a 2-litre Zetec ESP pre-facelift around 2000, 2001. There's your 4 cars. Strange enough, all of them are pre-facelifts before the facelift, but the facelifts are better looking. That's my opinion. But still, each their own. P6 is... Mm. P6s are nice, but I would love an SD1 Vitesse. Daniel, SD1s for me don't float my boat. I think they are the most overrated Rover going. I've seen some wonderful examples. They sound burbly and great. I love the V8s in SD1s. They sound better than P6 V8s. I don't like P6 V8s, but I think they're overrated. I think they really are overrated for what they are. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just me. But a Vitesse, very nice. Very nice. I just like P6s, and I think that SD1 was a technological backstep. As modern as the body looks amazing, but underneath it's not quite the same car. Rover joke. In fact, there's a black S-Reg for sale on Auto Trader right now. Don't get tempted. There are quite a few S-Regs that keep popping up all over the place, you know. I am not going, no. On Monday, on Bank Holiday Monday, I will be at the Great British Car Journey. I will be there in, I've got a choice. If it's dry, I've got the Focus. If it's wet, if there's rain, I've got the Rover. It's as simple as that. I don't drive the Focus in wet. Aztec, yeah, oh God, hold on. I'm off to the mini meet in the park this weekend, organising the concourse and show and shine. So this is a great way to get me into the car mode for the weekend. Hey, good. I love people who organise that sort of stuff. Love it. Museum can do a car club visit with discounted tickets for tenner per head. Okay. From 12 people, so you can start small and build up. Oh, really? 12? I didn't know that. Most places insist 50 cars. It's different venues, I know that. Just to make it worth it. Okay, that's a good shout. Maybe I should do a poll on the group to see how many people would be willing to do that. My last company car before I retired was a Focus. I had an ST3 Navigator. The 250 PS petrol jobby, bloody awesome, loved it. Yeah, nice that. If you would take one car home from there, what would it be? P6. Bye bye. I've stolen the P6. I'm tempted, but it's only 995. That's good money for a Mark 1 Focus, and an S-Reg depends what condition it is. Look, it might be an S-Reg, but if it's pretty rotten in places, it's not worth that. It's not worth your time. I'd rather pay 1,500 for a solid example, an S-Reg, rather than that, because you're costing yourself, by saving £600 or whatever, you're costing yourself in welding. Although I'll say that, you can weld. There you go. You can weld your own Focus, so maybe not an issue. Sorry. 1.6 Zetec S. Yeah, that's the peppy engine of the range. The sweet spot. I say the 1.8 is the sweet spot, some people say. But I still on 1.6. Is that the Polycap one? Yeah, yes, they were. They were the real ones, Aztec. There's only one copy in the museum, and that's the DeLorean. I thought that was a copy. There's been several copies made, but it's a very good copy indeed. The Thunderbirds, Penelope's car, the Rolls. That's a replica, but there's only 6 of them that have been made like that. I thought that was amazing. Andrew, could you come to the Oxford show on September the 10th? I can't. No, because I'm booked in elsewhere. My dates are clashed with something else. I couldn't come, mate. Sorry about that. Yeah. Right, I have finally got to the end of this chat. I'm so pleased that, honestly, oh my God, this is the longest live stream I've ever done. Plenty to talk about. I'm going to have to end this. It's still going. Are you joking? That's the real Fab 1. Oh my God. Oh my God. So it's a Ford Thunderbird underneath. It's the real one. Well, that's news to my ears. From what I've been told, there's been, yeah, say 6 replicas. That's the real one. Gosh. There's a T-Reg Estate Focus for sale too. So don't get me started. Honestly, I'm so gonna. I wish you could join us earlier, mini scenes, but you will join us again because you know I'm going to do one of these live streams next weekend, but I don't know which day. It will be roughly around 8 o'clock, either on the Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I've got to decide. It might clash with one of the days. Okay, so I'm going to be doing that. For those of you who don't know where I'm going, Monday the 28th on the bank holiday, I am booked. I've booked some parking tickets. I booked 2. I booked once, okay, 3 weeks ago to come to the show. I didn't book admission tickets. I just booked parking tickets, £5 to go to the Great British Car Journey in Derby. Okay. I booked a ticket and then I forgot I booked it, so I booked another ticket thinking that I needed to book. So I've got 2 tickets. I've been looking for someone to take the ticket off me, but no one's. I've asked a few people, but it's £5. I'm not bothered. So if anybody wants that ticket, if they want to go to the Great British Car Journey, let me know. Give me an email. You can have a free ticket to come to the Great British Car Journey. You need to have a good car though, preferably, because it's a mix of cars, I believe. I'm going to end this. Oh, cut out? No, we haven't. Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to go enjoy your live. Great stuff. I'll email you the pictures of my Focus underneath. Please do. I'll assess it. See what you think. Would you love your opinion? Perfect. Sorry, I sound like a promo for the museum. You know, you've told me a few things that I don't know, so I'm really pleased that I've found someone that actually works there. So before I even pick up a phone and talk to the team about booking a day, you've given me a little bit of a thought process there. And so thank you for that. Enjoy the chat. I'll try to join others, but not go on about the museum. Oh, no, don't worry about it. I love people talking about museums. I love museums. You seem really interested to talk to. Yes, I second that one. You are. Daniel, good night, and good night, sir. Good night, Daniel. I'm off to. You're off to Silverstone Festival in the morning to see the professional Capris in the auction, which I've wanted to see for years. I hope you see you again. And show, I will see you very soon, sir. That sounds like a cracking day out. Take some photos because I'll be watching. Put it on Facebook. I will find you. It was good chatting to you. Great life. I'll see you soon. I'll watch some of your videos, Reverend Joe. Keep in touch. It's fascinating stuff what you're doing. Aztec, thank you, sir. Thank you for joining. It wasn't my plan to talk museum. Oh no, that's brilliant. You've got my email. You know where to contact me. Yeah, I must do your knife channel. I don't think a lot would like resin crafts. It's interesting. I'm not into it, but I'll join you. I'll support you as much as you support me. I just need about an hour free. That might be difficult. Good night, everyone. You take care. Thank you for joining this wonderful live stream. I've talked about everything. So yeah, new car, same mindset. Watch this space because things are happening. Take care. Oh, it's not gone on.